This meeting is being live streamed. We got it. All right, 7:30 on the clock. Welcome everybody to the February 15th meeting of the Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals. As a matter of business, all members of the zoning board are participating remotely. That would be Greg Tanzi, myself, Rob Rosa, Robert Baker Sr., Timothy Haynes, and Stephen Galley. One other thing, all members should be aware that this public meeting is being recorded and live streamed. So I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion.
Second?
Seconded.
Got a second? Roll call. Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Mr. Baker Sr.?
Yes.
Mr. Haynes?
Yes.
All right, we're going to leave it at that because that's the four members. Let me read the legal advertisement. 7:30 p.m. Remotely conducted public hearing will be held by the Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals on Tuesday, February 15th, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. on the application submitted by Josh Smith, 8370 Wilshire Boulevard, Suite 330, Beverly Hills, California, 90211 for a variance and or special permits or section 6 finding pursuant to the sections 415-14A, 2C, medical dental clinics, 415-88C, D, and MGL Chapter 40A, Section 6, to allow the demise of a portion of the existing Walgreens at 75 Market Street, Rockland, Massachusetts. Said newly demised portion will be built out for village medical offices and a new suite number assigned for the space at the premises known as and numbered 75 Market Street, Rockland, Massachusetts. The property is located in the Business 2 zoning district, Section 415-14 of the bylaw, and is further identified as Lot 86, Map 51 on the Rockland Assessors maps. The owner of the property is Greenwall Realty LLC, 400 Herkimer Street, apartment LD, Brooklyn, New York, 11213. The applicant and all interested parties are advised to check the town website and the zoning board's website for additional information and remote meeting details. All right, who is going to be voting on this? That would be Mr. Tanzi, myself, Mr. Baker Sr., Mr. Haynes, and Mr. Galley. You are muted. Just letting you know you're voting tonight, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right.
All right, welcome everybody. Who is going to be speaking on behalf of, I guess it's Village Medical? Mr. Smith, are you here? No, there's Mr. Smith. How you doing, sir?
Doing well. How are you?
Not too bad. You got a camera?
I do.
Let's turn it on so we know who we're talking to. There we go. Nice hairdo, sir.
Sorry, it's still daylight here on the West Coast.
Rock and roll.
So I also have Mike Creekmore. He is with Village Medical, and he can speak more to the operations side of the business. And then we also have Joe Tremonti with Pleasant Valley, who's our general contractor.
All righty, sir. Whoever wants to start off and take the lead on this one, we'll hear from you.
Okay, this is Mike Creekmore. Thank you for having us here tonight. I'll kind of give you the rundown of the place, and if I need to, I can pop up the floor plan on the screen to walk you through it. Village MD is a full-service primary care facility. As you said, we're going into a Walgreens occupying about 3,400 square feet in the Walgreens. Walgreens will build a demising wall within their facility, and then we'll occupy that 3,400 square feet that's left. There will be a central vestibule that you'll come into, and then you have the choice to go to the Walgreens or through a Village MD door into our facility. Facility will consist of 8 exam rooms. Hours of operation are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 on Saturday and Sundays. Looking at about 9 to 10 employees per shift, 2 doctors or so on a shift. There is a lab in here that does kind of point of care testing, strep, pregnancy, those kind of things. We do all blood work, but that's all sent out to LabCorp and other places like that. No emergency services on site. There's no x-ray abilities on site. Parking, there's I think 68 required parking, and there's 94 provided on site currently. It's kind of the rundown of the thing. I can pop a floor plan up if that helps to illustrate anything.
I think everybody has copies of the plans, but it would be nice for everybody to kind of get your take on it. You know what I mean?
Okay, let me figure out how to share my screen here since I have multiple screens, but can everyone see my screen okay?
There you go.
Okay, so as I discussed, this was the central vestibule that you come into off of, let me show you here on this. Central vestibule, you do come into the existing Walgreens entrance, and then you can enter into the Walgreens or come up to the Village Medical side. Once you come into the Village Medical side, there's a patient waiting area with reception, and then a door you come through to go into the exam rooms and offices with the lab in back, restrooms here, access point back out into the Walgreens here to go to the pharmacy for patrons that need to use the pharmacies after they've come in and see the doctor. There's an employee break room here in the back. Very simple, straightforward plan.
Okay. Last question is there's no changes to the exterior of the building, correct? Other than one entrance or exit, however you look at it, on the side of the building. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so no changes there. If you want to take that down, I'm going to open it up to the board. Mr. Tanzi, got any questions?
So approximately half the Walgreens is going to be converted into this medical facility. Is that correct, roughly?
About a third of it, actually.
A third?
Yeah, it's existing. It's about a little under 14,000 square feet, and we're taking about 3,000.
No change in the size of the building.
Correct.
And could you go over the parking requirements again? You briefly touched on them, but.
Yeah, so on the cover sheet, that's what I'm reading from. It says retail parking 47, clinic parking 21. That gives us the 68 required, and there's currently 94 spaces on the site.
Okay. So why is this a finding? Or is it?
We were told we needed to have the section 6 finding in order to move forward with our permitting.
The only thing I could think was because it's an independent business, so it's two businesses on the same location.
Yeah, but it's a commercial. It's a commercial use. I mean that.
And it's a permitted use in the business 2 zone. The only person that I can really go to at this point is Attorney Galvin.
Bob, you're muted.
So it was advertised as needing a variance, special permit, and or a finding. And I'm not privy to why they thought they needed all of those.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time myself.
I mean, in the business 2 zoning district, a drugstore is a permitted principal use.
Medical dental clinics are also.
So is a medical or dental clinic. So these are both permitted uses.
Yep.
By right. And I don't know, does this pharmacy have a drive-up window still?
Yes.
Is that impacted in any way, shape, or form by the placement of this clinic?
By what I see.
Maybe Tom, do you want to jump in here, Tom Rubel?
Yeah, I had sent them through there because of the mixed use. 2 uses on the same property. Yeah, I don't know, is it more detrimental to the neighborhood? Even though they're permitted, but you got 2 uses on the same property.
We do allow, you're not allowed to have more than one principal building on a lot. But I think you're allowed to have more than one use in the business district, more than one principal use. Am I mistaken on that, Tom?
No, yeah, you could have the two uses there, but are they more detrimental to the neighborhood? Are the uses working with each other? I mean, you got a clinic and you got a drugstore. What actually do they do at the clinic?
Probably nothing different than they do at the Minute Clinic at CVS. It's virtually the same thing. The only difference is this clinic is going to be about 3 times the size of what they got going on over at CVS.
And these have doctors on site.
Yeah.
And the clinics are,
Yeah.
Now, is this clinic, is it a walk-in or is it by appointment predominantly?
by appointment predominantly, but if somebody was to walk in and there was availability, I'm sure we would see them.
Right.
But yeah, we don't do emergency services. So if somebody comes in, has a severed finger or something, we're not going to be able to deal with that.
This is along the lines of a Health Express thing. That's kind of what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a primary care doctor facility. So it just happens to be within a Walgreens.
And how many examination rooms is?
There was 8 exam rooms.
Yeah. So, I mean, the maximum amount of people that you could, if each, room was filled, there's 8 people, and let's say there's 8 in the waiting room, and there's about 16 people right there, plus the staff. I mean, that's really nothing. I mean, you can get 20 people vehicle trips into the Walgreens or CVS
And actually,
in
it's
15
probably,
minutes.
yeah, and like you said, it's, using 3,000 square feet, it's actually a little less of the retail that would have been there that requires a higher trip generation. So it's probably a little less of a trip generation in total to the facility now.
Only real
Yeah.
question is, does the parking requirement for the medical end of it, does that parking requirement infringe on what Walgreens is going to use? Because Walgreens, I think, was going to be based on Walgreens should be based on the overall size of the sales floor, I believe, which you're in turn cutting in, almost half.
Right.
So
Rob, there's definitely more parking required. It's one for every 250 square feet, plus 1 space for every 2 employees. But I don't think if they have that many parking spaces, they're in any way infringing upon that requirement. I think they're well under.
mhm. No, I agree.
The only question I have is, what are they proposing for signage? Because the sign bylaw changes when you add a second use, and you're not allowed to have as big a signs, but you can have 2 secondary wall signs and then a pole sign, but that's what you're allowed to have. So I haven't seen anything about what signage is going to be there.
Yeah, we have a third-party sign vendor that'll do the sign package. Typically, you see on the existing monument or pylon, we'll revise the panels and add our panel in there. And on that front kind of over that front vestibule is the glass window up there that we'll also put the Village Medical logo in.
So knowing that if this all goes through tonight, if everybody's happy with it, you'll have to make application to the building department for the signage. And if it does not meet the current bylaw, then you may be back here to deal with the signage. You're okay with that?
Understand? Yes.
Are there any other aesthetic changes to the exterior of the building other than that one door that's on the side?
No, there is not.
Mr. Tansey, do you have anything else, sir?
I have no other questions.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Baker Senior, talk to me. Mr. Baker Senior.
Yes.
There you
I
go.
didn't hear you. Is there going to be any parking behind the building?
No, the existing parking that's shown is mostly in front of the building along, I'm trying to see the road name, Spring Street, and then off of the side of the driveway there. But the back of the building is the typical loading area for Walgreens and everything.
Okay. The reason I asked is that's the way the drive-through leaves, exits,
Correct.
and I didn't want to interfere with the. The other question is, and it's probably not even for you, it's probably for Walgreens owners. The trailer trucks that are there, parked there at different times of the day and night, and there's someone that comes in and picks them up and goes out and brings them back. I don't think those should be there. And that's the question that I would ask Tom. The other question is the door that goes into, that you're gonna have to go into Walgreens from the examination rooms.
Yes.
Is that gonna be a one-way door out only? So nobody from Walgreens can come in that door?
I believe it is, but I'd ask Jen, who's also with Village Medical on the call, to chime in on that.
Yes, sir. That door is a one-way only. So our patients will leave, but we will not have anybody from Walgreens able to enter that door.
Okay, that was my concern because people could sneak in the waiting area and when no
Understand?
one's in the room, they could grab needles or whatever if they knew they could get in there
Yeah.
without security. That was all I had.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Coming down to Mr. Haynes.
I have no question.
No questions. Thank you, sir. Mr. Galley, talk to me, sir.
I don't have any questions. I was gonna ask about the second door and it was already answered, so that's it.
All right. Lastly comes to me. I was actually going to bring up the trailer trucks as well. The only thing that I could kind of look at is, again, accessory uses, parking. It is parking for Walgreens inventory purposes, I guess. Mr. Rubel, what's your feeling on that?
Well, I'd like to know, is this gonna be a section 6 finding? Is it what are we here for?
Attorney Galvin, how can you,
I don't think that they need any approvals. I think that as long as you condition them on compliance with sign bylaw requirements and the requirements to obtain appropriate building permits and other local permits and approvals, they're in good shape.
Okay. My question would be the hours from Walgreens to the clinic, are they the same?
No, the clinic may have longer hours because the Walgreens will have longer hours than the clinic. Clinic is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So the clinic's usually, or the Walgreens is usually open later than the clinic. We have a separate security system that we can arm and disarm for our system and entrance.
Okay, so, and again, the trucks were mentioned a couple of times. We don't know why the trucks are there overnight.
yeah, the trucks are there. The trucks are there because it's convenient, I believe. They load and they load and they unload from different locations. And I don't know exactly how it works, but I know that it's a convenience situation as opposed to a requirement or a need.
I'll have to check it out.
I mean, we don't allow outdoor overnight storage, you know, and
As far as I know, there's nothing in there. It's a matter of they go, they pick it up, they drive, they go between different Walgreens, and it sounds to me like it's just overnight storage of the trailer itself as opposed to anything inside it, because they're delivering everything and they're just putting the trailer there, from what I understand. Mr. Galley?
I was just thinking, you were talking about these trailers. One thing, is this a question that has to do with the applicant really, or just Walgreens?
No, that's.
So, and then the trailers, do they take up so many spaces that they reduce their available spots if they're finally don't have enough spots? So if it's,
They're not in spots. They're usually on the side of the property that's away from everything. And
Okay.
It has nothing to do with this current applicant.
Okay.
That is something that they would have to talk to Walgreens about. They're always out of the way. They are always out of the way, but it's just a matter of, do they have the ability per the zoning bylaw to store those empty trailers there? Don't know. At this point, don't care. It's not what we're here for. So let's see, I've gone through my board members. Mr. Rubel, do you have anything else that you want to talk about, sir?
Yeah, did you get this in the Judy Hardigan for taxes?
I think that's coming to the applicant.
What was the question again?
Judy Hardigan on municipal lien certificates for taxes?
I think Deb was showing it off.
It came in my package.
Tom, are there unpaid taxes? Is that the issue?
I believe so. I don't know. Deb, what do you got out of it?
She's muted.
It looks like there's a balance due of 29,000 for 2022, but I don't know when they were due. 33,000 have been paid. The total taxes were 62,000. 33,000 have been paid. 29,000 balance due.
That's all I got.
Okay, it sounds like the tax situation would probably have to be taken care of before, is it before permits?
So we have a general bylaw, not a zoning bylaw, that requires outstanding taxes to be paid before permits and approvals can issue. So the applicant will not be able to obtain a building permit to make their interior modifications until those taxes are satisfied.
But that's just a building permit. And what we're talking about tonight is,
I really actually think that you should basically deny the applicant's request for relief on the grounds that none is required, provided he complies with the bylaw as to signage. And independently, they'll have to make sure that the taxes for the property have been paid, because Mr. Rubel will not be able to issue them a building permit or a certificate of occupancy until such time as that's done.
right, so the only thing that they have to really worry about is the signage, and that's going to be a separate issue.
Correct.
All right, so we could close the public portion of the meeting, and we could deny this because.
Well, deny it as moot because it's not necessary for them to obtain any of the requested relief on the condition that they comply with the provisions of the bylaw. I just comply with the provisions of the bylaw. And
So Baker, did you memorize what he just said? Because you're going to be making that motion.
How about I'll give you the
Motion
motion?
to close the public.
I got a motion.
Second,
I got a second on Mr. Galley. I got a roll call. Mr. Tanzi,
Yes.
myself is a yes. Mr. Baker Senior,
Yes.
Mr. Haynes,
Yes.
Mr. Galley.
yes.
All right, that's all yeses. Let me pull up my cheat sheet real quick here. It's so often, so infrequent, I'm able to do this. Okay, hearing that, actually, yeah, because we've got none. All right. Let's see. All right, the board will deliberate tonight, and you are welcome to stay. You will receive a decision in the mail with a date stamp, 21 days from the date stamp on the decision. You go to the town clerk's office, request a certificate of no appeal. And if no one has appealed, the town clerk will give you a certification and a copy of the original decision. Take that to the registry of deeds, record it, and one of the conditions is always to show the building department proof of recording. But in the end, I don't even know if we have to do that.
So
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion before
Yes,
you
please.
dismiss the applicant? So for the applicant's benefit, Chapter 273 of the town's general bylaws relates to delinquent taxpayers. And basically, the town's collector has an obligation to furnish all boards, departments, and officials a list of persons or corporations that have neglected or failed to pay taxes. And then the licensing authority, in this case, it'll be Mr. Rubel as the building commissioner, has the authority to deny, revoke, or suspend any permit or license, including renewals and transfers. So you probably want to address that with your landlord or however that works, so that when Mr. Rubel can get confirmation from the treasurer collector that this has all been paid and you can move ahead timely.
Okay, understood.
All right, so let's talk. Board members, who wants to make a motion or who wants to talk, who wants to say anything?
I'll make a motion to deny as the relief they're looking for is mute.
Does that cover it, Attorney Galvin?
Yeah, deny the relief requested as moot on the grounds that they comply with the zoning bylaw, and then you're perfectly fine.
Deb, you got all that?
As Mr. Galvin corrected me.
Okay. Deb, you comfortable with that? Okay. I got a motion. I need a second. I got a second on Mr. Haynes. Mr. Tanzi, roll call.
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Mr. Baker Senior,
Yes,
Mr. Haynes,
Yes.
Mr. Galvin.
Yes.
Done.
Great.
Please move. All right, so all you gotta do, so again, all you have to do is just deal with Walgreens when it comes to that tax situation. And then once you get all the signs, basically your sign detail plans together, just make sure your sign guy goes over the sign bylaws. I'm assuming, don't just drop it in Mr. Rubel's lap and make him go through it. Make sure that your guy goes through it all. Make sure that if you're not gonna comply, or if you don't want to comply, let him know that you're going to be asking for a variance for it.
Mhm.
It's easier when you guys do your homework and don't just drop it in his lap. Don't make him tell you. So that's it. And if we see you again, it's going to be for a sign variance. And if we don't see you again, I'll make an appointment as soon as you guys are up and going.
Sounds great. Appreciate it.
All right, rock and roll. Thank you for coming tonight. Board members, we have a couple of other things we got to go over. Let's see.
Hey, Rob, I have to
Yes.
shoot over to a kind of an urgent matter that's developed.
No, please.
Okay.
No,
so,
we're just gonna,
I'll-
all we're gonna be going over is if anybody went through the zoning bylaw, if they want to talk about changes. In the end, we're gonna put a document together of what we think
All right.
would be nice we've got
I
changed.
just leave you with one thought. Remember, if you're going to talk about changing your fees, the
Yep.
fees have to be consistent with fees that are charged for conventional projects. Okay.
Okay,
So, all right.
nothing outlandish.
Nothing outlandish, and I'll be happy to talk to you later about it. All right.
Sounds good. We'll email you what we got at the end,
Very
Bob.
good.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right, gentlemen and lady, did everybody get a chance to go over what we got?
I didn't. I thought in the last meeting, you said you were going to move this to March 15th. This discussion, or were you going to continue this discussion on March 15th?
I think on March 15th, put it this way, anything that we think needs to be changed
Yeah.
needs to go in front of planning board anyway.
Yes.
So even no matter how insignificant,
Mhm.
planning board is the one that has to bring this to town meeting. So we would need planning board and selectmen approval on anything that we want to change. The reason why I'm doing this is because, and Greg can attest to this, the way that anything like this ever came up was basically Bob Manzilla did it all. All right. He went through and he made changes. The building department would, suggest changes to him. He would bring this up. We would all, sit there and talk about it. Then we'd meet with the planning board, tell them that this is what we want to to. Planning board would discuss it. Sometimes they wouldn't want to, sometimes they wouldn't want to change, one of the things or whatever. Very rarely did they not go with what we said. It doesn't matter. It still comes down to whatever we say has to be approved by both the planning board and the selectmen to get on the warrant. So I'm gonna throw this right out to Mr. Rubel, because I know that as the zoning enforcement officer, he's the one who has to make this, he's the one who has to deal with all of this. So I have a small list of things that I wanted to cover. Mr. Rubel, do you have anything specific that you kind of want to see modified?
Yes, I do.
Perfect.
If you can remember on the restoration of 415-24-D, we had an issue a few months ago in regards to the area and height of the building. The members of the zoning board had came up with that even though the height was still within the 36 feet, that restoration D states that the original area and height has to be the same. We got to do something with that.
What was the article number again, please?
It was 415-24-D.
24, non-conforming uses. D, restoration. A non-conforming building or structure which has been damaged or destroyed may be repaired or rebuilt, provided that such restoration shall not exceed the original area and height, shall be placed no nearer to the street line than the building or structure which the restoration replaces, and the owner of said premises shall start operation for restoration or rebuilding on said premises within 12 months of damage or destruction. This was Pine Haven, correct?
That's right.
Okay, Pine Haven started out as an addition, but then they looked at it and said, from a cost standpoint, it would make sense to demolish the entire building.
That's after we found out about the drainage.
Exactly.
They had
So,
a two-car garage for one.
yeah, they had to shrink the two car, they had to shrink that down, but again, that came way after that. So the question was, when you tear down the original house, does it have to maintain the previous height? So the question is, based on this, they do. But this is under restoration.
This is if it was destroyed.
Right. That's where I'm having a hard time. Mr. Rubel, do you have any kind of wording that you would rather see in that? Is there something,
Well, I mean, if they meet all the zoning setbacks and height, do we need to keep the original area and the height? I don't know.
I would say no. If they can meet their setbacks, right?
And height.
And they, let's say they put a second floor on, as long as it conforms to zoning. Usually what this is involved in is an undersized lot.
Mhm.
And the lot, it's an existing non-conforming lot, not really a structure. But we're dealing with a structure, not a non-conforming lot. So, yeah, if the dwelling or structure conforms to zoning, why can't they do that?
Well, the point is that what he's trying to make is, based on this restoration, based on this, sub-criteria D, it's saying that the height of the building can't exceed what it was originally. But if that height did not exceed the zoning requirement for the height requirement for the zone, let's say, because again, we're 36, is that what it was supposed to be? I think it was 36.
Yeah.
3 stories at 36 feet. If the original building, the original building height was, say, 29 feet. And they wanted to go up another 5 feet. That's still under the 30, that's still under the 36 feet. So why couldn't they do that?
Yeah. I mean.
Can we have
What,
galleries and
what's,
reword it?
no, wait. Do they,
You
it
have
doesn't
to,
even talk about whether it's conforming or non-conforming.
yeah, Gregor, you have to read that. You have to read it. Restoration, a non-conforming building or structure which has been damaged or destroyed may be repaired or rebuilt, provided that such restoration shall not exceed the original area and height. That's what he's looking at. And then shall be placed no nearer the street than the building or structure which the restoration. Basically, what it's saying is, if the building gets destroyed, if the building has to be restored, it has to be restored to its exact position. All right, it's exact. It has to be built on the same footprint and has to be the same height. That's the criteria that we were looking at for Pine Haven, because they ended up having to tear down the entire building. So basically what it's saying is a non-conforming building or structure, if it's burnt, if it has to get torn down and rebuilt, it has to go in the same place. It has to be the same height and stored.
Yeah.
This only applies, this particular piece only applies to like if a house is caught on fire. I mean,
That's based on this.
This is not an alteration. So the Pine Haven was an alteration.
Exactly.
And if there are existing, this whole section is non-conforming uses. So alterations simply are non-conforming structures or uses can be extended or altered, provided no such extension or alteration shall be permitted unless there's a finding by us that an extension is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming structure use. So
100% agree.
So the situation Tom's talking about falls under B, not D. And so if somebody came in here, we could grant them the ability to go up, so say they didn't have setbacks. So they're over the setback line, they're too close to the front, but they want to put a second floor on.
Yep.
And we could grant them the ability to go up higher. The issue that we had at Pine Haven was specifically that they came in, we gave them an okay, then they came back going like, no, we really want to do something else. So we said, well, as long as what you're going to rebuild is what you said you were going to build, not something so much bigger or more grand. I mean, we didn't ask them to come back and present plans and give us other documents. We gave them sort of an out to just like, as long as it's what you said you were going to do, not any higher, not any like different, then go ahead. You just don't come back to us.
And I agree with that 100%. My only problem is when you look at the actual definition of alteration versus restoration. When you tear a structure down, when you remove a structure, 100% remove the structure, pull the foundation out of the ground, you're starting over from scratch. That's not restoration. That's my problem.
Yeah, that is not restoration.
No, excuse me, that's not alteration. That's alteration.
That is alteration. So
when you pull something completely out of the ground.
So a lot of towns have a separate section called replacement.
Okay.
And so the way we deal with it is sort of, you can alter it. If most towns will say, if you want to start over, and I think we had this, if you want to start over, you have to just comply with all zoning. So it's a blank canvas. So if you have a non-conforming lot, you've got to come in to ask for zoning relief because you don't have enough area or you can't meet a setback. So a replacement dwelling, an actual replacement, a new dwelling, we might want to give them some relief in here. You can replace a house on a non-conforming lot provided you meet all of these requirements. Usually it's not even as nice as what we say. Usually it's you just have to comply with all zoning. You want to replace your house, comply with zoning. all aspects of it.
All right, I'm gonna continue on what you're saying, because what I did was I pulled up Braintree zoning alterations. It's section 135-403 of the Braintree zoning code. Alterations or reconstruction of non-conforming structures or uses. Pre-existing non-conforming structures and structures containing a non-conforming use may be extended or altered only if there is a finding by the zoning board of appeals, permit granting authority, that such extension or alteration shall not be substantially more detrimental. Exactly what you were saying. That's A. B, in the event of a non-conforming structure or building or structure containing a non-conforming use is damaged or destroyed in whole or in part by fire, blah, 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 blah. It may within 2 years of the date. So there's your 2-year, deal. Non-conforming 1 or 2 family dwelling shall be allowed as a matter of right. So it sounds like it's just to me, it's a wording. It's if we look at our zoning code, and when it comes to non-conforming uses, 514-24B, you could actually say alteration dash reconstruction. Does that include that? I think that is a little bit more inclusive.
Yep, it's reconstruction. Some towns call it replacement. I mean, if
Right. No, I looked for that too.
like the full tear down.
Yeah, saying I think that we can either call it, I say make that word alteration a little bit broader of a, not a definition, but a little bit broader of a subject. Alteration, reconstruction, replacement. Mr. Rubel, does that kind of cover what you're saying?
I think we're heading in the right direction to make it a little more easier for me.
Okay.
Again, we can run this across Galvin too.
Okay.
For wording, but you know where it's coming from.
Deb, you got this under control here? Yeah, you're shaking your head, I think, but I can't hear you.
Yeah, I got it.
All right. So again, 415-24B. The suggestion at this point would be to add on to the word alteration. It would be alteration, alteration / reconstruction / replacement.
Do we have a definition for replacement? Do we have a definition for all those terms, Rob?
Do we have a definition for alteration?
Yeah.
Find out. Definitions. We have no definition for alteration. We have down to R. We have no definition for replacement. We have no definition for restoration.
Well,
Restoration or reconstruction?
We don't have a definition for either of them.
not even for reconstruction?
Nope.
What's interesting is that the whole section talks more about the building being non-conforming, and it doesn't really make a lot of doesn't really talk about the lot itself being non-conforming. Because we've got lots that are undersized. So technically, if you're going to tear down a house in most other towns, if the lot is already undersized and you go to put a new building on it, the lot itself will no longer meet the requirements to build a new house on.
It's very true. It's very true. A lot of times what happens is in Hingham, they have what's called the Hatfield Amendment to the zoning bylaw. Basically what it does is it allows the building inspector to make these determinations without going to an actual meeting. Basically, if it's an undersized lot and there's, let's say, one line of the house that's pre-existing and it's non-conforming, they can add on to the house as long as they don't get any closer to the sidelines. You know, as long as they don't get any closer to the sidelines. So it's a matter of, I think it's a matter of wording when it comes to the non-conforming uses. Mr. Galley?
What you just said, you were saying that if it's a non-conforming house but they want to say move it closer to the side property line of the street, but it still would be within the zoning laws that allow it, that would not be anything that they have to worry about applying for?
If it's a let's say it's a pre-existing house.
Yeah.
All right. Front setback is 25.
Mhm.
All right. If they're at 23,
Yeah,
they're already busting the zoning bylaw. And there's that law that we keep looking at that says if you're in the zoning, you know, if you're already breaking the zoning bylaw,
yeah.
you can continue to do it and get worse. So you can go down to 10 feet.
Well, technically you're right, but there's a
We wouldn't allow
criteria.
it.
Huh?
We wouldn't allow it.
No, and we're not obligated to. I mean, if it's not significantly more
Right.
detrimental,
Right.
you know, for example, let's say there's an existing non-conforming house
Okay.
and they're 23 feet off the line.
Okay. 23 off the front.
Okay, so they're non-conforming by 2 feet.
Yep.
Yeah, if they wanted to go another 5 feet into it, you know, we might say, I mean, we do have the power to approve it, but we'd probably say that's kind of, you know, 5 feet is a little bit much. But
But you did with Pine Haven.
what's that?
You did with Pine Haven.
Yeah.
They
But
were already in the front and you gave them a deck.
yeah,
So you did. So it's technically it's up to the board. You know,
we found that it was not significantly more detrimental. Yeah, it was more non-conforming, but it wasn't significantly more non-conforming such that it was detrimental to the neighborhood. I mean, there can be circumstances where you can justify greater relief under a section 6. Let's say there was a road taking or on the other side of the road. Let's say they put the road, you know, off the right of way and they did a land taking on the other side of the road.
Mhm.
You might be, you know, 20 feet off the property line, but you could be 40 feet off the pavement and it doesn't, you know what I mean? Sometimes there are, you know, unique cases where it might even make sense from even a modal alignment standpoint and aesthetic.
Use big words now. Come on, Greg. It's too late to be using big words like.
Well, you know what those big words mean.
Of course I do, but nobody else does.
That's that. Well, you know, I can't. Tim knows.
Of course he does. But I guess what would the way that I'm looking at it is the more and more we talk about this, it's almost, that's why we have a zoning board, to be able to look at each individual case individually and come up with not rules and regulations, but basically look at each one as an individual and make determinations on that lot specifically.
I got a question, Earth.
Yeah, please.
So what I remember about Pine Haven is that to reconstruct it to the original design of the previous design, they couldn't go higher, but if it was a new house, the height could have been taller because it still would have been within the rules.
Yep.
So would it be outrageous or out of line to just be able to say you can reconstruct and then up to existing limits of height, or
As long as it
Existing
complies
zoning
with
regulation.
bylaw.
so that way they don't have to, go through the process. but I'm saying going up and going out, like say they're 30 feet back from the sidewalk.
Yep.
And it can be up to 25 feet. Do we have to make them apply to add 5 feet from 30 to 25?
No, that we don't have to, as long as it's anything that we don't have to deal with anything as long, if it complies with the bylaw. We don't have to do it, we're never even gonna see it.
Yeah.
But in those instances where the house, let's say, again, pre-existing non-conforming lot, house is, again, pre-existing, it's 10 feet off the sideline, it's 18 feet off the street,
Yeah.
and it's 40 feet off the rear, all right? If that house gets knocked down, all right, if it, if a fire, tornado, something stupid, all right, if it gets demolished, the only thing that they can do is put it back up in the same place at the same height.
Yeah.
Now, the question becomes, if that height was only 27 feet, but they want to build up to the highest that they can within the zoning bylaw.
Yeah.
Again, they don't have to come to us if they're putting it in exactly as it was. But they would have to come to us if they wanted to exceed the original height by going above what the zoning bylaw calls for, which again is 36 feet as far as I know.
Okay, so they could rebuild it to the height that it was and most likely get approved to reach the limit of the bylaw.
Yeah, that's right. And that still wouldn't even come to us.
Okay.
That's the whole point. But what they have to do is they have to appease the building inspector. They have to show the building inspector that the original height was X, but we want to go Y, and the bylaw is Z. We're still going to be below Z. They have to be able to prove that to Mr. Rubel, and that all kind of falls under plot plan regulations.
Can we add any verbiage that just says, to that effect in a short piece that just says,
Well, that's actually item number C in that section.
See, what was the number on that against the
41524.
41524. Let me just get back to it.
So what's missing in here for Tom, and I think he's right, that the situation of a house replacement is not clearly defined in here. It's alterations and extensions. And so they don't have to, if somebody's going to meet all of the zoning regulations for in this case, it only mentions replacement. That doesn't mention replacements. It's alterations or extensions.
Yep.
So, but if they don't have to even come to us if they meet all of these requirements: setbacks, lot coverage, building height, parking, and yard requirements.
Or they don't have to come to us if they're putting it, if they can prove that they're putting it back in the exact same place in the exact same height. They don't have to come to us either.
If it's been destroyed.
Yeah, if it's been destroyed. If they're pulling it, if they're tearing it down and rebuilding it, then it sounds like maybe else there's a finding by design. That would fall under alteration if we extend the alteration to be alteration, replacement, or reconstruction.
Mm-hmm.
So round robin, are we comfortable on that one? If we just take if we take 415, again, it's 415-24B, alteration, that's what it says currently. We take it alteration / replacement / reconstruction. Everybody kind of happy with that? Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, I mean, other than not the part where an existing structure gets destroyed and not having to come back to the board, the rest of this bylaw section, to me, feels like it's covered under the state ordinance section 6 finding section. You know what I mean? It almost seems redundant to me, with the exception of the part of when a structure gets destroyed, that they can replace it on its own footprint and not come back to us without having to come back to us.
No, again, they have it under here as alteration. And it gives Mr. Rubel a little bit more something to lean on. When it comes right down to it, because we don't have, if we had, and again, Greg, you know this in Hingham, the Hatfield bylaw. If we had something in there, then I'm not saying that we put it in now. It's something that we have to talk about because I'd like to get this in here at some point. But again, the Hatfield bylaw that Hingham has basically says exactly what Greg's saying and puts that power into the hands of the building inspector to be able to make that determination without having to go to zoning. If he can look at it and say that the first side setback, the closest side setback of the existing house is 6 feet. If you were to extend that or jog it in a little bit and keep going, and go further into the backyard, if by the time you get to the end of the addition, if it's no closer than 6 feet, the Hatfield bylaw in Hingham gives Tom the ability to look at it and go, oh, they're not going to be any more non-conforming than what it is. No, they don't have to go, here's your permit. That's kind of what I hear what you're saying. That would take a lot of work. And that's something for the next town meeting, I think. But if we make this modification now, just by adding 2 words to it, it gives Tom a little bit more to lean on until we're able to get that
All right.
field into play. Does that work for everybody? Mr. Rubel, does that work for you?
I'd like to see it.
Okay. So Deb, we'll make that the first recommendation that we'd like to see changed. What else you got, Tom?
Rob, could I,
Going for a smoke? What do you? Wait, what do you
I
mean?
was gonna say, why couldn't we put definitions for reconstruction and that, the other ones, alterations and everything? And in parentheses, put can be done as long as it meets zoning requirements as to height.
Who are you listening to? Us or your speaker there?
What? I'm not saying anything.
Oh, I heard somebody talk. It sounded like somebody was talking.
Tom's probably listening to the police scanner.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense.
That's what it was.
In construction. Trying to come up with definitions here. I'm looking at the returning of a damaged going to a known earlier state of induction. Okay, that's not too bad. Hold on, let me just copy this. I got this definition of reconstruction. Reconstruction. See if you like this one. This is Google at its best. The returning of a damaged building to a known earlier state by the introduction of new materials. That's a definition of reconstruction. How's that sound?
Introduction of new materials.
How
Yep.
about restoration?
You're not using the Birdwood.
Let me find that. And Tim, I'm going to say this again. The returning of a damaged building to a known earlier state by the introduction of new materials.
That's for restoration. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's for reconstruction.
Yeah, that is really a definition of restoration. They're talking about reconstruction as opposed to replacement.
Yeah,
You
I would
look at
agree.
Restoration, and it's stating to bring everything back to its original condition.
Yeah.
Right, now this is what I have as restoration. The action of returning something to a former owner, place, or condition.
No, that's out of context. That's restoring something that was lost. You know, it could be an automobile, it could be a bicycle, it could be a guitar.
Wait a second. So if I restore a 56 Bel Air
Yeah,
to the exact specifications as to when it came out of the factory,
right.
that's restoration.
Yes, but that there's got to be more than one definition.
Oh, there's a jillion.
Those
of
two
the
different-
restoration, because restoration can be, oh, you know, you lost your, you know, whatever, your guitar, and let's say I damaged it, and I restored to you a
How
new
can you
one.
damage it?
No,
if I
those
lost-
are two different definitions.
Yeah,
Reconstruction is like what you said. You could be building it from the ground up. Restoration is, like you said, you could have a rusted out Bel Air. You're going to polish that thing, put new tires on it. You're still using the structure to restore.
yeah.
Those are two different things.
Reconstruction assumes that there's a major part of the structure that was gone. All right, that was completely and totally gone. Restoration is taking something that's old and buffing it out. You know, maybe replacing some of the stuff that would end up, you know, like the siding. All right, you, instead of going with the old cedar shakes, you go with vinyl siding. That would be a restoration.
Can I interrupt?
It's
With,
almost what the flip
Please.
is, really.
So here's a typical one that I would see.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have to change this. The definition, the actual term is replacement dwelling.
Okay.
And the definition is the supplanting of all or a portion of a demolished or substantially demolished dwelling with a substitute dwelling in the same or in a different location on the lot, or the relocation on the lot of an existing dwelling.
Mhm.
That requires more permissions to move a property closer to lines and outside of limits that may have already been existing.
No, I hear where Tim's going. That's still, to me, that still falls under not restoration, but the other one. What did I just say?
Right.
Replacement?
Sure.
Reconstruction. That almost sounds under that almost feels like it comes under the reconstruction end of it.
You alter, you expand, you replace. Replace is, there is already a house there.
Yep.
You are replacing that house. So a restoration or reconstruction is you are building the exact same thing using new materials.
Those aren't identical. They're not equal.
Yeah, I know. I tend to. I agree with Mr. Gallagher.
Right, because one says it has to be replaced in the exact location. The other just says it's got to be replaced.
The whole point is they're not the same thing.
Right.
Restoration or reconstruction are one thing. Are
No,
we?
they're not. Restoration and reconstruction are not the same thing.
Yes. How are
No,
they
I
different?
think we're arguing the same point. I've got a
I'm confused. How are they different?
As you said, reconstruct could be to build it up from scratch. Restore is to take an existing structure and basically to refurbish it. It's to clean it up, maybe add some new pieces to strengthen it up. Those are two different things.
When it comes to replacement, I feel like that if the foundation is still in place, and you're able to build up on the pre-existing foundation, that would be replacement. When you're reconstructing something, to me, that's tearing the whole thing down and starting from scratch, but in the same position that it was when you first tore it down.
So the two terms when you talk about restoration and reconstruction.
Yep.
One is to use the car terms I was hearing before. One is you've got an old car and you fix it up.
Yep.
And you introduce a whole lot of new things onto the car. You place a couple of bumpers and a fender here and a door there and a new engine. The reconstruction would be like a full resto mod, like where you actually have like maybe a new frame and you put some old parts on.
Oh, yeah, you would be.
Or you have the old frame
on
and you
it.
put a new body on it. I
Yeah.
have an 81 Jeep Scrambler that has like the original frame and engine and transmission and parts, but there's nothing else that's original on it.
Mr. Haynes, just by saying that, you made me love you even more.
You didn't know I had to.
Dude, I've built 7 Jeeps from ground up. So you and I got some things to talk about, even more things to talk about now. But then, again, when my idea of it, and again, this is going to be different for everybody. My idea of restoration is kind of taking something that's structurally sound and just bringing it back to factory standard. That's restoration. When you're replacing something, it feels to me like the foundation is already there and you're building off of the foundation to replace the house that was there. Reconstruction is tearing that foundation right out of the ground and starting from scratch.
Yeah.
That's the way that I see each of the definitions. It's just coming up with and we can put those definitions and I think we should put those definitions in the definition section. It's just a matter of coming up with a good definition as opposed to my redneck speak.
Well,
You know,
again, this is just sort of a typical, I'm only talking from sort of a typical thing that I deal with in other towns. So here's another definition, which is substantially demolished. So, knocking it all the way to the ground, but most towns require you can't pretend like you're restoring it or just doing a little addition on it when you're actually like knocking 90% of it down.
Right. See, this is the issue that we're coming up with. So
I just want to give you this definition. So it's another
please.
Substantially demolished. I mean, demolished is obviously you've knocked it, like taken it away. But most towns will say substantially demolished means destruction of more than 50% of the exterior walls of a building, or the destruction of more than 75% of the roof of a building. So they consider if you want to add a floor, you're taking away so much of the roof that it is in fact in a lot of towns considered substantially demolished. But that's the definition of substantially demolished. And they're making and I think this is the key difference. One is, an act of, like fire or nature, has done something to your house, and you just want to get your house back. And, you get a lot more leeway, to like a lot more ease. If you're just putting back, it's going to be like the same size, the same place. You're not moving it around. You're not adding on to it. You just like the house back. You get you can go a little faster through the building department.
No, I dig it. Mr. Rubel, how you feel at this point? If we add those 2 words to the 415, that section 415.24, if we add those and then come up with the 3 definitions, would that help you?
Yes, I think it would.
Okay.
I would still like to have Bob Galvin take a look at it.
Oh, no, he's got to look at it no matter what.
Yeah, also have him look what we're trying to accomplish here.
Oh, yeah.
And see if we're doing it to meet his criteria. That's
Yeah, no. He has to look at everything. I mean, unfortunately, we can't just go and just say we want these changes.
We need to tell him what we want to get out of this.
Oh, yeah. If you can, again, if you have the ability to just write a little blurb, and then just shoot it over to Deb, she's going to put this all together for him to look at. So that takes care of that. What do you have anything else
I have something else that I think we ought to think about after looking at the bylaw. I want to think about sober houses.
Yep.
Firearm businesses and gun ranges, along with fortune tellers.
You want more of them in the town?
No, I want to know where can we put them?
Ah. Home occupations?
A firearm business,
Lower
residential.
portion, lower portion of the town hall,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that'll be the shooting range.
Fortune tellers. I mean, you can go online and Google these. Some towns do have it in their bylaws.
Do they really?
Yes.
Okay.
So a fortune teller, you have a fortune teller in a residential area, you get people coming in and out and cars parking in the street, da, da, da. I mean, these are just things we can look at maybe for the next meeting.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have to, because you say this, and I remember there was one in Weymouth on 18. There was definitely one on 104 just before you get to the Lowe's. Yeah, it was, I think it's 104 heading towards Route 24 in like Easton or something like that. There was one in, oh Jesus, there was one on just outside of Queen Anne's Corner. I remember that one.
But firearm businesses or fortune
No,
tellers?
fortune tellers.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Yeah,
we also had a firearm. Didn't we have? We had firearms in the center of town, didn't we?
somebody wanted an outside range, shooting range in a residential area.
Yeah,
No, I
no.
can't have, you can't have an outside shooting range.
I'm just telling you what we got. They wanted it.
Put it by the school.
I
Yeah,
gave them
exactly.
the PD. I gave them the PD. Sober houses, I don't think we can do anything with. The
They
only
can-
reason why,
they can do anything.
the only reason why I bought sober houses out, because we did one in Eastwater Street and Bob Galvin was there. They took Tiffany 2 Rest Home, made that a sober house. And Bob Galvin said, you just gotta give it to him. So I want to talk, I was kind of hoping Galvin was here so we can talk to him in regards to the sober houses.
And they look at it as if it's just a residential
Single family.
family use, that, you know, everybody in that sober house is a family member
Yeah.
temporarily.
Yeah.
And there's not really, you know, much you can do, but you know, a well-run facility is not really that intrusive. Most of those guys can't drive, you know.
No, that's true.
Until they graduate, and then they're no longer there, so.
They're not like the sober houses, though. They're not like a church. They can't just go anywhere they want, right? They have to, and they can't have a
Well,
sober house.
No, I mean, it's, as I understand it, it's like a single family, it's treated
Treated
as
as
a
a single
single
family
family
home.
residential dwelling.
But it's not like a retail business where someone walks in for a couple of hours and leaves and.
No,
lot of
no,
traffic.
the house is being used just as any other residential house is used, except for there are more people there.
Yeah.
It's like a family with, 15 children, there's two guys there that can drive, that monitor the situation and drive the people where they have to go, to get a job, to get back on their feet and whatnot.
So do they have employees there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They have an overnight,
That's right.
I don't know what you'd call them, but I guess a counselor or,
Yeah.
They calling me the mothers or fathers.
Oh, is that really?
Yes,
They,
sober house mother or a sober house father.
but don't they usually live there, don't they? They reside at this place.
well, they do, they spend the night there. They don't, I mean, they rotate in. I mean, they don't live there.
How is this not considered a
24/7.
rooming house? I mean,
Oh,
it's
like a
just-
boarding house or something?
Yeah,
I
it's a
think
boarding house, a rooming house.
we were just
You know,
saying.
Yeah, a boarding house is different because people drive, they come and they go. These guys in a sober house have a very, depending upon what stage they are at the beginning, they're very limited. They, at first they're confined to the premises, except for if they, when they get a job, they can go to and from their job, but they're monitored very carefully so that they don't go off and start using drugs or whatever.
Yeah.
And then their freedoms and their privileges are eased up as they, advance and prove themselves that they're, pretty much recovered. And then once they've recovered, hopefully that chapter of their life is behind them and they never come back.
It still comes down to that based on the last time that we had to deal with this, Calvin said that they can go in any residential, it sounds like they can go in any
Yeah.
residential zone.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I understand. I mean, Brendan has, my friend, our
Yeah.
friend Brendan,
Yep.
he runs them and has a financial stake in them. And I've seen these guys. I mean, once a week we, have a Bible study with these guys and help to get them set up. So, I mean, I see this stuff and I kind of get a feel for what.
So what's the limit for occupancy? Like, who determines that limit?
Trying to remember how many we had at the other one.
Yeah, I mean, it's controlled. I mean,
Yeah.
if you have a 3 bedrooms available, you could probably have 6 people there.
I mean,
And
I know, like when you sell a house, you can say you only have so many bathrooms because it's only built with so much plumbing. So I wasn't sure if it was kind of like that. They've only got so much plumbing, so they can only have so many people per unit of plumbing that they allow. I don't know how that works. But
yeah, I mean,
I don't remember. Again, this would be a good question for Galvin if he was here, because it's not trying to limit the number of people that are in there. It's just trying to make sure that it works for the area. Because the sober house that we had to do on East Water, again, I can't remember how many people were there or how many people he was trying to get in there. But I remember there had to be, it was like somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 parking spaces. 10 parking spaces, I want to say with the one employee that they were going to have, it was either 7 or 8 people. So there was a going back and forth on how to regulate this. But based on what Galvin said, it really came down to, even if it's kind of like a 40B, even if you put all these regulations on it, if they don't like the determination, they can go to the state and the state can turn around and say, and basically they'll just overturn our decision. So it's a balance of regulation, but basically allowing it to happen. And again, this is really where I think Galvin would come in and really would come into play for this one. So I'm going to say that gun ranges, not in a residential zone. That's the first thing.
But anywhere.
Well, you can't really say anywhere. And I don't know if
Well, you
any
could put it inside the marijuana joint.
that would be pretty cool. And then right next door, we have an axe thrower.
Now, I have something for fortune
Put the strip
tellers
club on the other
and
side.
for the gun ranges, firearm business, gun ranges, and fortune tellers. I have something here, Rob, that I can give to you. Okay.
If you can forward that to Deb, she can put this all together and we can, and then we can put it all out.
Yeah,
just
just
by
look it
email.
over. Look it
Okay.
over.
All right.
That's all I got.
I appreciate it, Mr. Rubel. Thank you very much. If does anybody else have anything? I just got a couple of quick things. And Mr. Rubel, I think you'll appreciate this one. Number one, remember the whole marijuana, the registered marijuana facilities? We were dealing with the times. Everybody remember that?
Yes.
One was 8 and one was 9.
Yeah.
Okay, what I got here is registered marijuana facilities, which is the medical one. The hours were basically 8 p.m. No, they couldn't be open from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. That should be changed to 9 p.m. They can't be open from 9 p.m. to 8 p.m. because that'll work with that'll work with basically everything else that's going on. Because right now, the two that we have in town, Canavana is 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and Sunday is 10 a.m. to 7:30. Health Circle, which Health Circle has both, is both. They're 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Sunday, and Monday through Saturday, and then Sunday 11 to 6. So based on their last thing, again, they want to be open until 9 on both sides. So 415-38.4.c.4, when it comes to registered marijuana facilities, the hours to correspond with the other one, to correspond with the recreational. When it comes to hours that it can't be open, 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. should be changed to 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's just basic. It just corresponds with everything else. And if that works for everybody, then that would be a recommended change. The
So
only
does
other
that
thing,
mean he could stay open till 9 if that's changed, or does he have to do something to change that?
meaning what?
Like if we change 8 PM to 9 PM?
Yep, he would have to, technically, he would have to come back and ask for that.
Okay,
Because we couldn't do anything about it when he came to us the last time. So he would have to come back to us to modify his conditions.
okay.
Which I don't think he would have a problem with.
There's another one.
What'd you say?
There's another one coming.
Another marijuana facility?
Yeah, they were at the selectmen's meeting tonight.
Wow, I'm really disappointed. Before we go into the permit fees, I got two others that this is just something that I see in other towns. Tim, Greg, I think you'll appreciate this. Definitions for building coverage and lot coverage. We don't have anything in the current bylaw that talks about either. And technically we have like a stormwater bylaw that's in this town right now. I don't know how it works. I don't know if it works. I don't know what's been going on with it, but something that should be looked at is both the building coverage and the lot coverage when it comes to individual pieces of property. Definition of building coverage I have is the horizontal area measured within the outside face of the exterior walls of all principal and accessory structures and buildings on a lot. Building coverage shall be calculated as the area of all portions of the main building and accessory buildings that have roofs. Basically, anything that's got a roof, porches, sheds, detached sheds, decks don't count. Covered entries count. Patios don't count. But anything that's attached to the building that has a roof or detached from the building that has a roof, that would be the definition of building coverage. Lot coverage, that
What about
portion
a
of the
screened-in-
lot. Huh?
What about a screened-in patio?
Does it have a roof?
Of course they do.
Has a roof.
Gazebo type things they put out for the
If
summer.
it has a roof, that's it. If it doesn't have walls, I don't care. If it's got a roof, I don't care if it doesn't have, what I mean is, if it's something that's missing walls like a gazebo, I don't care. It's still got a roof that's going to shed water down onto the ground. That's really what it comes down to. When it comes to lot coverage, that portion of a lot covered by structures or impervious surfaces.
Yep.
So those are the two things that most every other town has. We've never had anything like that. I want to say that I remember seeing lot coverage in there a long time ago, but I don't know if it got taken out. It's something that can be tabulated. It's something that should be put on a building permit plot plan. It's something that should be put right in front of Tom's face so he can see it. So there's no questions. Tom, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, that'd be fine. We do have lot coverage, but I haven't seen building.
We did, do you know where lot coverage is? I looked for it and I couldn't find it.
Okay, look,
We have
four,
building
415,
average
415, 22.
Building average percentage of lot.
Right.
Trying to get there. Okay, 415-22, that's building and lot regulations.
Yeah. You go to the 25, 30, 35 maximum building lot percentage in lot of lot.
Now, is that building or is that strictly building or is that lot coverage as well?
Well, like I said, it says maximum building average percentage of lot.
Okay. Because I've never seen that on any certified plot plan that's come through the building, that's come through the zoning. So it's not something that we've ever like taken into consideration.
Right.
So I'd like to look at that as being a part of, any new, anything that comes to you that way. Unfortunately, it's one more thing that you would have to look at. But in turn, if we add the lot coverage in there, again, it's coming down to the impervious lot coverage. And anybody that wants to tar their whole front yard is basically not going to be able to do it. Based on the zoning, not just the driveway regulations, but also the impervious regulations. So if building coverage is already there, then we're golden. All right. If building coverage is already there, and what did I have that as? I said 25. We're at 25, 30%, 35, and 40%. Actually, that makes sense. All right, that makes sense. The only thing that I would want to add then is lot coverage definition, and then when it comes to percentage.
Yeah. It's going to be a tough one in this town.
In this town, it would be difficult. But again, when you're looking at these smaller lots, and look at the R4 look at the R4 district. R4 is what is that? A lot of Reed Street, Pacific, the actual three.
All
Saying-
the hill streets by the fire station,
Okay.
Pacific, Taunton. Every one
So
of them.
those are the lots that are super small and taken up by an entire building to begin with.
Mhm.
So, if we did something like that, let me just get back to it here. Should it kind of correspond to what they're doing with the maximum average percent, the building average percent? The building average percent for R1 is 25, for R2 is 30, for R3 is 35, and R4 is 40. So if you start at a total maximum impervious for the R1 district is typically lots that, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, Millbrook's in an R1, right?
No,
what's Millbrook?
I believe that's commercial.
Millbrook?
That's
No,
a PUD. That's a PUD.
It's a PUD, but I don't think it's commercial.
I don't think it was ever changed.
Millbrook is R1.
Okay, so it's an R1 district.
Okay.
All right, so it's an R1 district, but you're right, it is a PUD, and you're dealing with lots in there that are like anywhere from 15 to 17,000 square feet. All right, so by the time it's all said and done, if between your shed and your house, if that's taken up 25% of the lot, by the time your driveway and let's say a basketball court gets thrown in there, can you say yeah, but talk to Grega. Grega, does a swimming pool count as impervious area? I don't remember.
I don't recall, to be honest with you.
The reason why I'm
Water.
questioning is because it's full of
Good.
water.
It retains water.
It's,
Right,
it's
it's already.
impenetrable by
Yeah,
water.
But the thing is that it's already full of water. And I remember dealing with this at a planning board meeting, or there was a conservation meeting maybe. And there was a question of as to whether the pool was considered an impervious structure. So even if you incorporate the pool, all right, between the driveway, the basketball court, and the pool, it's still not going to be more, it's still not going to really be much more than your house and your shed and possibly your doghouse. So if you look at it and say the maximum building percent is 25%, and you say that the maximum impervious for R1 should be 55%, and then increase by 5% the whole time, because you have 55, 60, 65, 70. So by the time you're at R4, your maximum lot coverage would be 70%. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
It's a very, I mean, most towns have gone to this. It does
Yeah.
make sense. It's good. Again, this is the sort of thing that might be a little controversial in this town, and sometimes it's hard to achieve. But you have well recharge. You've got blacktop that is pervious. You can use other materials.
There are way other ways to make it work.
In a town that has so much water, this is, our issue is runoff. Our issue,
Right.
it's people getting flooded out, and so I think it makes a lot of sense to start talking about this.
Tom, is this something, am I on the right track here?
Yeah, I think the swimming pool should be considered just like a shed as an accessory structure. I mean,
Okay,
It's impervious.
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. So if we do this, if we wanted to do this, we're gonna keep building, the building coverage the way that we have it. We're gonna not change that at all. But we're gonna add into the definitions, we're gonna add in the definition of lot coverage. And again, if somebody has a different definition, that's cool. I snagged this from Braintree. That portion of a lot covered by structures or impervious surfaces. Now, do we have a definition of structure? That I don't know. Going back to my definitions. Something
Living quarters, should be living quarters, storage, buildings, and accessory buildings.
The
And pools.
definition of a structure is so complicated that I'm looking at one that's anything constructed, assembled, erected, or maintained at a fixed location above or below ground, including but not limited. I mean, it's things like 12 paragraphs of
Right, and unfortunately,
retaining walls over 36 inches and fences over 6 feet. And,
Yep.
It's,
See, this is where it gets difficult. If I go to let me again go to town of Braintree. Code.
Anything that is impervious.
But that's only a definition under one part of it. That's the problem. If we put in a definition of structure, people are going to look at it. They're going to be looking for a full definition of it. Hold on.
it is funny that we don't have it. We have building, a structure wholly or partly enclosed, so, we name a lot of things that are structures, but we don't actually have a definition of structure.
Again, town of Braintree, this is their definition of the word structure. Anything constructed or erected on the ground, including signs, billboards, and swimming pools, but not including masonry walls under 6 feet in height used as fences.
6 feet. Wow.
That's what they have. Now I can go to,
But swimming pools, that mean in ground and above?
yeah, and it just says swimming pool, so I would assume both. We'll go to Hingham.
Because a lot of built-in swimming pools have big patios up all the way around them and stuff.
If that would be, if it's impervious, then it would be considered, then it would fall under the lot coverage. If it was a paver patio, pavers, I think, are still I don't know if pavers are considered impervious or not. Mr. Tanzi, you're the resident's civil engineer here.
Yeah.
Paver patios, are they pervious or impervious?
They're impervious. No, they're pervious. A paver patio, because water gets in between the joints of them. The joints are filled with stone dust, and they're typically marketed as a permeable paver. So.
Okay.
I get the, Rob, the state
Yes.
building code definition for structure.
Okay,
You ready for this?
I'm hearing.
That which is built or constructed. That's it.
Okay. Now I'm gonna give you-
Definition for structure.
Now I'm going to give you this one. This is the town of Hingham. All right. Sit down, relax. Here we go. Structure, anything constructed or erected at a fixed location on the ground to give support, provide shelter, or satisfy other purposes, but excluding a fence or wall 6 feet or less in height, a sign, a flagpole, and a public utility pole. In residential districts, structure shall further exclude one detached accessory building per lot, provided that said accessory does not exceed 64 square feet in ground coverage and 9 feet in height, and further provided that said accessory building is located to the rear of the dwelling and no closer than 5 feet from the side of the, in residential, it's huge.
I like
All right.
mine better.
I know, and there's too much. There's gotta be a happy medium between too much and too little. I like anything constructed or erected at a fixed location on the ground to give support, provide shelter, or satisfy other purposes, but excluding a fence or wall 6 feet or less in height, a sign, a flagpole.
That's when fences had to be 6 feet. Now they can be 7. So that's an old definition.
That's, I think, they still class, what they're saying is, for this, what they're saying is a wall that's over 6 feet has to adhere to the bylaw. That's, in Hingham, I know this specifically. When they're talking about walls under 6 feet, if you propose the wall to a sport court, a retaining wall, any kind of wall, if it's under 6 feet, it's exempt from zoning. If it's over 6 feet, it has to comply with zoning setbacks. So I know that's why they put, I know that's why they put that in here, but excluding a fence, so basically that first sentence, anything constructed or erected at a fixed location on the ground to give support, provide shelter, or satisfy other purposes, but excluding a fence or wall 6 feet height, a sign, a flagpole, and a public utility pole. So basically, I think that covers it.
Question.
Yep.
So I understand from those definitions that you're going over, a flag or a sign wouldn't be considered a structure. What regulates what you can put up for flags and flagpoles and signs?
Mr. Rubel, we have I know we have sign bylaws, but when it comes to a flagpole, that I don't know.
No, I have nothing.
But signs have a board or something, and
Yeah, we have the bylaw, the bylaw has, we have a ton of sign bylaws that Mr. Rubel does enforce. So that I wouldn't worry about, but in the end, I'm trying to come up with a semi all-inclusive definition of the word structure that really pertains to the lot coverage definition. And I'm wondering if that cuts it. I don't know if that cuts it or not. I think it does, but
I'd say that generally covers it.
that kind of covers it. Gregor, what do you think?
Yeah,
That first sentence kind of covers it
I think so.
without going into too much definition.
Yeah, I don't like too much definition.
This is not,
You know.
this is not the town for a 12 paragraph.
We're on the same page then.
Something
Right.
built.
Yeah, but did you hear what I said? You got all that?
Yeah, I'll get it.
All right, so how do you want to get it? Or actually, hold on. I'm
Well, actually, you're gonna send me the definitions that you want to use.
gonna put it together right now. Hold on. Yes, I am. All right, so that's gone. That's good. All right. Now, we had restoration. The only other definitions that I know of that we're looking at right now are the restoration and reconstruct.
I have a question.
Yep.
So you said after the word alteration, we were gonna, excuse me, add replacement. We were gonna go alteration / replacement / reconstruction.
Yep.
Are we now gonna add restoration?
Restoration is already defined.
It's not defined, but it's already in the bylaw. So I think
So we need a definition of restoration.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Trying to. Tim, I've got reconstruction. Do you want to see if you can come up with a good one for restoration?
So, so reconstruction or restoration is a non-conforming building or structure if substantially destroyed by fire or other casualty, may be rebuilt, blah, 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 blah. So it is a building or structure substantially destroyed by fire or casualty to be rebuilt, something like that.
But that's what you're restoring. I threw something down quick and I just said returning a building or structure to a former condition. I don't know if that does the whole, I don't know if it says the whole thing.
So I'm trying to make the definition separate from what you're allowed to do, which are two different things, right? It's the way we say it is a non-conforming building or structure which has been damaged or destroyed may be repaired or rebuilt, and subject to certain things. So since it's saying repair and rebuild, I'm going to go back to my sorry. So this is a repairing or rebuilding is different than replacement. So I think the addition we're trying to put in is the idea of a replacement building.
Okay.
And the definition of replacement is supplanting all or a portion of a demolished or substantially demolished dwelling with a substitute dwelling in the same or in a different location on the lot, or the relocation on the lot of an existing dwelling.
Can you do a copy and paste and email that to me?
Yeah.
If you can do that, I can put that in the list here. So that'll take care of that. Does anybody have anything else other than zoning bylaw wise? Does anybody have anything else? Because the only other thing that I have is looking at the permit fees. Let me see. All right, and this is where Mr. Attorney Galvin said we got to be reasonable on this. So currently,
Rob, I'm heading out. Okay.
All right. No, I appreciate it, Tom. Thank you. If
All
there's
right,
anything else that comes up, I'll forward it to you.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Thanks.
The fees that I got right now, I think Deb forwarded them to all of us. It was $200 for a special permit, section 6 variance or use variance. It was $200 appeal from a decision from Mr. Rubel. And do those need to go
I
up?
think we ought to go up $50 on each one.
I don't think we have to justify it either. We don't have to justify it to another board or anything like that. We'll have to, it's Deb, if you can just coordinate with Attorney Galvin. I agree that $50, an extra $50 on those, that's fine. Everybody else, yes?
That's not unreasonable.
I don't think that's unreasonable at all. As far as I know, that's been the same that's been the same number since I've been on the board, and I've been on over 12 years. So let's be realistic. Is everybody okay with adding $50 to the permit fee?
Well, if it's been 12 years, it should double.
Well, now we're getting to the comprehensive permit fees. Comprehensive permit fees.
$2 million.
$2,000 plus $100 per unit for a limited dividend organization. It's $1,500 plus $75 per unit if it's a nonprofit organization. So basically, what's his face? This last guy on Concord Street. He paid us $2,400 for the permit application. Is that right, Deb?
Yes.
When you look at Shingle Mill, their permit application was the $2,000 plus $2,600? No. How many units was he doing? Yeah, 26,000. So his permit application was $28,000.
Can you change that based on this type of structure? Well, it's a house with a foundation or condos or apartments or footprint?
Yeah, this is saying $100 per unit.
Per unit.
Which is
I mean, he could build a mansion for $100 or a cottage for $100
no.
technically.
No. These are for 40Bs. This is for a comprehensive permit for a 40B section.
Okay,
So-
so that only applies to 40B.
Yeah, that only applies to the 40Bs times 100.
So what happens if Shingle Mill reduces the number of units? Does he get a refund?
That I can't answer.
Should be based on, probably based on the
Based on the
application.
initial
Yeah,
application.
the initial application.
His original application, he just
Yeah,
modified.
because
Okay.
we did the same thing. We did the same thing on that Park Street. Greg and I were on that one. The 40B that they did on Park and Howard, they started off with like something obnoxious, like 27 units or something like that. And then we ended up knocking them down to 20, I think, or 19 or something stupid like that. But I mean, they're not, they go in guns blazing, asking for whatever, telling us what they want.
Right.
And that's what their permit fees is based on.
Okay.
If we knock them down, it is what it
Doesn't
is.
matter.
Yeah,
Right.
so we're not getting a refund. I don't know what to do here. I can only assume that we should be able to go up, what? $25 a unit on both? Does that, because I don't know if we should add numbers to both of them. You know, do we say, okay, it's a comprehensive permit, go up 500 per organization. So it'd be 2,500 for a limited dividend organization and $2,000 for a nonprofit. And then say $125 per unit for the limited dividend and $100 per unit on the nonprofit. Does that make sense?
Well, you're going up a steeper amount for the nonprofit, a steeper percentage, even though it's a net increase the same, it's a steeper percentage.
No, you're right. All right, then I'll do it. I'll do one better. For the nonprofit, for the not-for-profit, we don't raise it. It's not for profit. At least that's what it's supposed to be.
I mean,
Yeah, but
you could always change the limited dividend to like 150 per unit and then the nonprofit to 100 per unit in that spirit. There are
Yeah.
expenses and paying for us to be here on Zoom.
That would be nice. I have no problem. You know, I'm just throwing these out here. And if we want to keep if we want to do that, that's fine. What's everybody else feel? I still feel it should be 2,500 and let's say 1.25 for the limited, for the for-profit ones. But when it comes to the nonprofit, I could go either way. It doesn't really matter to me.
So
Well,
I-
if we jack the limited one
The
up to
for-profit.
25, but we don't jack up the nonprofit, there might be, hard feelings. They might say, well, you jacked mine up to 2,500, but you didn't jack theirs up from 15.
What's an example of a nonprofit in the town?
The Lydia Square before it went to Newgate Housing. Lydia Square, when it first got permitted, was for it was done by the Rockland Housing Foundation. This was for the town. Basically, it was for the town. When it came down to it, they were supposed to be self-sustaining.
Yeah.
That's a nonprofit.
And in theory, we might get more affordable units. Like a nonprofit might make 50% affordable or 100% affordable. And we want to encourage that.
I'd like to, and I don't know if, again, when it really comes down to it, how much buildable area do we really have left in this town to be able to get a giant 40B?
Yeah.
Not a ton. You're going to be looking at.
It might be nice to incentivize having reducing the fees based on the percentage of affordable units. So, if it's at 50% affordable, fees, could be $50 a unit, and 75% affordable, and so on.
Ooh, I like that.
Very nice.
Don't forget, we got 800 acres over in the airbase that the town owns.
Yeah, but we can't put a 40B out there.
They can't have to go to the state.
No, I don't even think there was something that was, you can't put a 40B out there, from what I understand.
Is that because
They could always change it.
is that the people who developed it got that as a rule or whatever, like a
I
condition?
think so. I don't know why. I don't know how, but everybody has said that this is why all these 40Bs aren't going out there. There's plenty of room out there to do it.
Because they wanted, the people developing it probably wanted premium property, and they didn't want to quote unquote lower the property values.
Right. But on the Weymouth side, they're putting a subdivision in there where the houses are literally 6 feet apart. Literally 6 feet apart. You can open your window with your broom handle and tap on the window of the guy next door to ask for the sugar.
Jeez.
They're literally that, and I know this.
They're like
I did the list.
$900,000.
Yeah, 800, starting at 849.
Yeah.
And they say that's affordable.
So
But how do we want? I like what Tim's saying. I do like what you're saying. I just don't know how to do it. I don't know how to word it.
but we might have to just run that by Galvin too. He seemed to be very skeptical of our fees, but I'd like it to just have a declining number, regardless of the number of units, sort of thing. Just, we could just make it X per unit, and then have a declining number by how much percentage is affordable.
So basically 100% affordable is no fee whatsoever.
Yeah, waive the unit fee.
No, yeah, waive the unit fee. All right. If that can work, that can work.
So that's on the nonprofit.
No, that would be on the for-profit, the limited dividend. Not the not-for-profit, I would be okay with.
Just
And
the
again,
$25.
You know, in line with what Jim just said and what you just said, I like that idea. Make it $100 per unit and sliding down percentage of the affordable. If it's 50%, it's $50. If it's 75% affordable, it's $25. Seems very direct, and they're gonna be a half or a third or 2/3. They're not gonna be 90%, 99%, 100.
and quite honestly, the minimum that they have to do is a quarter.
Right, and a quarter is 1 out of nothing. Is on 320 Concord is 1 out of 4.
Yeah, saying I can't see it being a make or break situation for them when it comes to the permit fees. Although if they want to do 224 units,
Yeah.
they're still looking at what? The permit fee for that was 20, it was only like $25,000 anyway, right? The guy's going to be making hand over fist once this gets built. So $25,000 technically is going to be a drop in the hat
Yeah.
6 years later if it gets built.
And then going by that idea, you can actually raise the lump sum at the front.
Nice. That would be nice.
10 buildings, you make it $5,000. That's the coins, the change in their couch cushions
Right.
compared to those houses.
Yeah. Do you know how can you put something together to ask to query Attorney Galvin on that? If we can.
Yeah,
have
tell me what you want to do now. So for the limited dividend organization, which is for profit,
Yep.
you want to increase the fee from 2,000 to 2,500 just for the filing fee?
Yeah, I'd like to do that.
Okay. And then do you want to leave it at 100 per unit or go up to 125 per unit at the 25% affordable, which is what the minimum? And then go slide.
And then slide it down from there.
So 50% affordable would be how much per unit?
75.
Excuse me?
75, I think, if you cut it in half.
75.
But I don't think that works. 150. Jesus, you're gonna make me calculate a friggin' ratio now? I don't have time. Yeah.
Well, if it's going to be 125 a unit, if we go 50% affordable, why don't we just knock it down like, I don't know,
Add a-
75?
Add
Yeah,
the-
no, you're right. Just make it a set number. You're right. Make
Yeah,
it a set
and then
number.
if we go 75 percent affordable, we go down to like 50 per unit.
Okay.
And if we go 100% affordable, no fee at all for per unit.
I don't know about that.
No.
No, okay.
Yeah, they go
You pay
100% affordable.
$25 filing fee, but not per unit. At 100% affordable, you pay the $2,500 filing fee,
Correct,
but you would not have to pay
per unit fee.
per unit fee.
See, now the problem it's an incentive, but it's not a huge incentive. That's the problem.
Right.
That's the problem.
It's a statement. We're just making a statement, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, no one's-
Exactly. And I don't. But again,
Well, if it's gonna be 100% nonprofit, that's gonna fall under the nonprofit.
A for-profit
Affordable.
company could do 100% affordable.
Right.
There's so much just
I don't
a
think
sliding
they would.
scale of what's affordable.
Right. Yeah, they buy it at Home Depot instead of National Lumber.
Deb, do me a favor. You know what we're trying to accomplish. Just kind of put it together in a blurb sense and just ask Galvin, can we have,
Okay.
is it possible, has he seen some sort of sliding scale, and does it make sense to do so? Again, he's gonna look at all this anyway. Now, the last thing that I looked at was the application for a public hearing. A lot of people, a lot of applicants have said that this is it's very confusing. It's not, it's hard to understand, blah,
It
blah, blah.
sucks.
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, this is the first time that I've ever read it. I got no problem with it. I really don't have a ton of problems with it. But if you look at, if this is coming from the same position that Greg is coming from, the same position that Tim is coming from, we've dealt with this on a daily basis on the other side. All right. We know how to deal with these things. We know how to read these things. This is where, unfortunately, Mr. Galley, this is where you're coming into play. Because like I've said this to a million people, you are the best representative on this zoning board for this town because you are a complete layperson.
Yes.
You know, this is where I would kind of look to you for a little bit of a little guidance, because when I read this, there's only a few things that don't make sense that don't really make sense. And you'd have to have this stuff kind of in front of you to know what I'm talking about. Because in section C, let me just get there. In section C, it says all applications that involve any new construction or additions to existing construction, and all applications that involve outside storage of goods or equipment, except for open decks and porches, shall be accompanied by a plan drawn and stamped by a registered land surveyor showing the meets and bounds of the property, rough arrow dimensions, blah, blah, blah. I say that all applications, and this is where it gets substituted, all applications that involve a dimensional variance request, strike everything out until you get to shall be accompanied by a plan drawn by blah, 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 blah. Anything that requires a dimensional variance should be accompanied by a plan, by a site plan. It's very simple, right? That's the way that I see that. In letter D, it says all applications for open, because now it brings into consideration open decks and porches. All applications for open decks and porches shall have a plan showing existing and proposed structures, blah, 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 blah. All right. I basically say strike, and so you can almost strike the whole thing. You can almost strike the whole thing because they're trying to, for some reason, they're separating decks and porches, which don't make any sense to me. Regardless of whether they're attached or detached, doesn't matter. It still should come down to, if you're going to request a dimensional variance, you need to show us a plan. So that's what you could almost strike the
By a
entire,
registered engineer, right?
the registered, stamped by a registered land surveyor, not a registered engineer. And a registered engineer cannot show where
Right.
something exists in relation to a property line. So section D, you could probably just strike that whole friggin' thing because it doesn't. What's up?
Can you go back to C? What did you
Yep.
say?
All applicant, this is the way that I think
Yeah.
it kind of should
Yeah.
read. All applications that involve a dimensional variance request shall be accompanied by a plan drawn and stamped by a registered land surveyor, blah, 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 blah.
Okay,
And then section D
yeah,
should technically be stricken, except for, because it doesn't need to be in there. That just takes into consideration the decks and porches that weren't taken into consideration in C. Now, section F. This is where Tim comes into play. Let me just zoom up here so I can get everything together. Section F. All applications for an in-law apartment shall have a scaled floor plan of the existing house, a scaled floor plan of the proposed in-law apartment, and showing all floors. Because it's just they put in a weird sentence here. Let me read it again, just in case anybody doesn't have it. All applications for an in-law apartment shall have a scaled floor plan of the existing house, a scaled floor plan of the proposed in-law apartment, period. All floors must be shown, period, plus all other required documentation as per these instruction sheets. The applicant must get a copy of the in-law apartment guidelines from the building department, blah, blah, blah. It's the way that I think it should read. All applications for an in-law apartment shall have a scaled floor plan of the existing house, comma, a scaled floor plan of the proposed in-law apartment, comma, with all floors shown. Excuse me. Scaled floor plan of the proposed in-law apartment showing all floors. Does that make sense?
Showing all floors of the existing structure.
I like that.
In-law apartment.
Showing all floors
Oh.
proposed and existing. Does that make sense? Showing all floors proposed and existing. And then it says, see, and then it's got a separate sentences that says, plus all other required documentation per these instruction sheets.
So
That should be,
they would need a site plan.
that's where I'm going. I'm trying to, instead of just saying plus all other required documents, I wanted to say a site plan per section C of this application shall be provided. Does that work?
So in my humble opinion,
Please bring it.
I have a note. There's never any mention of elevations, and the in-law apartment is the perfect example, because it's supposed to not change the character of a single-family house.
Right.
So the only way we can really judge a lot of the things, and it's not just in-law apartments, but it's additions, where we're supposed to say anything that needs like a section 6 finding, where we're supposed to say it's not substantially more detrimental. We should have elevations. We should always know what it's going to look like. We should know what materials it's going to be built out of. So
all applications for an in-law apartment shall have a scaled floor plan of the existing house, a scaled floor plan of the proposed in-law apartment, period. All plans shall include all floors as well as elevation details of the structure. Yes?
Sure. I mean, it's simplistic terms. I think it's like they should have, like, we should have full plans.
Right.
Of in fact, I wonder if I have something that talks about that. It should be site plan. I mean, normally you would get site plan, existing conditions plan, proposed floor plans and proposed elevations.
So it would be all floors existing and proposed and elevations.
Along with existing and proposed elevation details.
Okay.
Is that, again, that kind of, Tim, I know that keeps it like super simple. Does that work?
I think that's best. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's fine.
All right. So that covers that. And then the only other thing is, and I don't know what to do with this. Section K of the application talks about incomplete filings, and this is going to be the bane of Deb's existence.
We might have an issue now with Schoolhouse
Why?
because of the electronic filing was like, this was when I was out sick and they filed the application,
Yep.
not the electronic filing. So
Yep.
I was dealing with the attorney. So he
Yep.
told me what he did was when he filed the application and it was date stamped by the town clerk,
Yep.
he sent her an email through his phone, which Liza never got. The clerk's office never got it. So it was like, I think the week later when I got back and there were like a bunch of filings that had come in, I was going through them. I emailed the attorney and I said, the electronic filing, and he's like, I filed it that day. I checked with Liza, she didn't get it. So he filed it like 5 or 6 days later. So that's when I considered the filing to be made. But Jen says, no, it's the day it's date stamped.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but that's the correct.
So then we're off on the hearing. The hearing is technically over 30 days. So we're gonna have to, she has a call into Galvin, and I don't know if they talked or not, but she said possibly have Attorney Galvin send a letter to their attorney saying like we could have like a hearing, maybe schedule one for Friday night where we're within that 30-day period to just continue next day. But I can't do a legal notice and publish it.
Friday?
Yeah, so that we're within that 30-day period, because when we meet on the 26th.
Why can't you do it? Because the agenda only has to be published 48 hours.
48 hours.
Notice.
Say again?
Notice.
A legal notice.
So I may have screwed this one up.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, this is going to sound very harsh. For board members, that has nothing to do with us right now. Unfortunately, this is inter office clerical, unfortunately, and I don't know how to solve this.
But if we have to schedule a hearing for, like, say, Friday night, I don't see how we can do that.
I don't see how we can. Unless the only thing that we can't do is comply with the 2 weeks legal notice. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I just wanted you to know.
I don't know what else to do.
Okay.
Could we post a meeting for
When is the
Friday
third?
night? Open the meeting and continue it till the regular hearing date?
Not without legal notice.
Put it in the paper.
2 weeks minimum.
Yeah, I need like 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week.
You need time that we don't have, unfortunately.
What about, so I think we need to kind of clarify like what's an incomplete and a complete application.
What needs to happen is who is the one who makes that determination? Because again, I look at this application and this is what I said, and this is what I read. File your completed application with the town clerk to be date stamped.
Period.
Period. The town clerk's office will notify the zoning board of appeals to pick up your completed application package.
Then you don't.
If you end that, if you just take away everything else after that statement,
Yeah.
that tells me that the town clerk is reviewing it for its completeness.
So you don't need dates.
Well, but that, no, see, this is the, no, here's the, no, because the town clerk's office will notify the zoning board of appeals, that's you, to pick up your completed application package. But the problem is that the town clerk wants nothing to do with reviewing the package because they have no idea if it is complete or not.
Correct. Correct.
So basically what's been going on, as far as I know, prior to everything, is somebody would come in, they look at, they drop off the package. Somebody from clerk's office would contact Candy. Candy would pick everything up. She'd go through it to make sure that it was complete. She'd make all the phone calls to say whether it's complete or not. And that's how it would work. When we didn't have her dealing with this, Liza was doing all this, and she has no idea what's complete and what's not complete. So things were good. Things were going wrong. But again, she's also got the powers that be telling her just stamp it in, stamp it in, stamp it in.
Right. Right.
And now we're screwed. This is a problem. This is something that I don't know how to deal with this.
Okay.
Because if Again, applicant brings in application, drop it off with the town clerk. Town clerk calls Deb. Deb, come up, pick your mail up. Deb goes up, picks up the mail, goes through everything, sees if it's complete or not. If it's complete, it's complete. If it's not complete, you got to call them and say it's not complete. We can't stamp this in as received until it's complete.
Why couldn't we say that?
We can.
Drop off at the town clerk.
Because
And
they're
once
telling her
it's
to
reviewed-
accept it and date stamp it.
That's the problem. The town management is telling the town clerk, just accept it when it comes in. We can't just accept it when it comes in, especially if it's incomplete.
Because we don't, right, town clerk doesn't know if it's complete.
Right, they don't know what the definition of complete is. And even if they did, they wouldn't know what they were looking at when it came to the eligibility letter, when it came to all the site plans, when it came to architectural renderings, when it came to, everything. They don't know what they're looking at. So I wouldn't want to put that on the town clerk. I
Right.
wouldn't want to, I wouldn't want to put that on the town clerk. Deb, I wouldn't want to put it on you because I don't think you know 100% what needs to go in there.
No, I don't, but I mean, that's my function.
Right, that's your function, and you
Right.
and unfortunately, you have no real backup to be able to deal with this, and you have been a trooper through the whole thing. So I know that it will get taken care of, but unfortunately, right now we're dealing with something that is beyond any of our control at this point.
But- But section K, we have to kind of tighten up.
Yeah,
Like what we're trying to do is, what Liza's trying to tell them is to call me, make an appointment.
Yep.
I can tell them I'll either sit down with you or you can email me the documents. I'll
Right.
review them and then get back to you.
right, before you
know,
file it in.
Before you file.
I don't know if this is what Jen was talking about when she keeps talking about this whole pre-filing meeting or whatever, because she was talking about dealing with other departments and stuff like that. I remember her talking, we talked about this. She wanted to deal with other departments and I'll get them all involved. I don't want that. All I want is you talking to the applicant and going over what they feel is their completed package with you right there, them on the phone or via Zoom or whatever it is,
Right.
going through every single document, going, okay, this is good. Nope, you missed this. Nope, you need this. Nope, you need this, which shouldn't be your problem anyway. It shouldn't be your problem because everything's in here as far as I can read.
Right.
All the requirements are here. This is why I'm having a problem with this whole thing, because I read this and I can follow it 100% word for word, and I'm a moron. So this is easy.
I got a question.
Yep.
I understand that on 40Bs, you have to do something within 30 days, right? We have to have a meeting.
Yes, we have to
Yes.
set the hearing within 30 days.
Does the ticking clock apply to any other applicant? Does
Yes.
that-
Well, they all have a ticking clock, but most of them are 60 or 65 days.
Okay,
It's the most complicated one that has the least amount of time.
yeah, to steamroll it. Okay. All right, so was that, just curious, the one you were talking about, I don't remember, was that a 40B? Was it
Yeah,
just-
it's schoolhouse, it's Holy Family, yeah. It's a
Oh,
school.
okay. Yep, all right, I didn't catch what it was, I just heard the name and,
How many days are we screwing it by?
A couple. Now, I talked to the attorney and when we went by the date of the electronic filing and he agreed. And he actually thought the hearing was going to be on the 23rd, which he couldn't make, but it's actually on the 22nd. So he was fine with that. He's aware of that, but Jen today said, no, it's a screw up. It's not right.
Right, because it should never have been stamped in. It's not a screw up by you. It's not a screw up by the town clerk. Town clerk was doing what they were told.
Right, yeah, right.
This is a management problem. It's very simple.
Yeah, but
As a corollary, I have a on my list of things, I wondered if we should be doing zoning clinics. Some towns will like have basically like an office hour, like questions about zoning,
Yeah.
want to put in an application, and you just basically have office hours, and sort of people can bring their documents in where you just like sit with them and
Right.
go through
That's what we're
stuff.
trying to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's exactly what we're trying to
you know,
do.
so.
It's just unfortunately, the position that Deb holds really takes a hell of a lot more than 3 hours a day, right?
Yeah, slammed.
Let's be
Yeah.
realistic.
Yeah.
Exactly, a hell of a lot more. We need to be realistic here. I'm a realist, at least I try to be. And I know what Candy was doing on a day-to-day basis. And some of the things that she was doing was overcompensating. Some of it was over and above what she should have been doing. But when it comes to filing, when it comes to working with the applicants, when it comes to all the legal notices that you have to put together, it's just that's when it comes to dealing with all the mailings and shit. All right, see it, Deb. Do you know that the two other boards, the planning board and the conservation commission, they don't deal with them. They make the applicants do it. Did you know that?
I don't know if that's a legal requirement that we can make them do. Like when I was doing construction or whatever, we would make them provide proof of mailing. You bring me the green cards. It's the same. It was the same with like the towns. If we had to notify somebody, we would have to provide proof of mailing.
But the planning board requires that the applicant does that.
Yeah. Yeah, because that would be a lot easier.
I don't know if we have to.
Got another question.
See, I don't know.
So if a 40B gets it stamped, is that a state requirement in 40B that says once it's stamped in the town clerk?
That's the clock, yeah.
But the 40B says you date stamp it, and that starts the clock. So are you allowed to, if you rejected it before you stamped it, technically it's not stamped yet?
Can you stop the clock?
Yeah.
The clock wouldn't start.
Starting?
If she rejected it before she stamped it, the clock hasn't started.
But can it get rejected after the clock
See,
starts?
that's the problem. Like it's not, when is the filing deemed complete?
Yeah, basically.
Electronic filing is part of the application filing.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the filing requirement.
I wouldn't anticipate a lot of rejected applications. So I'm just wondering if you can choose when you stamp it, can you put a big instruction, a big sheet of paper at the town clerk's offices, all 40Bs, see so-and-so before stamping, or.
Well, that's what Liz is telling them. She doesn't want to accept them until I've said it's okay to accept it, basically.
Yeah.
That it's been reviewed, but someone else is telling her, no, accept it. Stamp
Even
it.
if we did something like put together a checklist.
Yeah.
Says, that says municipal liens, right, and they physically checked it off.
Yeah.
It still technically doesn't mean that it's actually in the package. You have to find it to see if it's in there.
Right.
And with a 40B, again, if this was a variance app, I could see it. If this is just a simple variance or a special permit or something like that, I could see the town clerk going through and being okay. But with a 40B application, I would not want to put that on the town clerk to go through.
Just looking for a way to stop like this miscommunication.
Uh-huh.
That's all I'm trying to suggest. Not to actually, like I said, I wouldn't anticipate a lot of mistakes or rejected.
Oh, dude, there are mistakes on almost every single application that gets put in.
So do you reject almost all of them?
She
Yeah.
doesn't accept them for filing.
Yeah.
Okay, so can we do that with 40Bs?
Yeah.
We're trying to. Yeah.
We're trying to get to that point, but the problem is that, again, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but there are higher ups that feel that they know better than we do. And maybe they do. But the sheer fact is that we're screwed right now because they were told to stamp something in when they didn't have a complete package. And it took forever to get that package completed. And what about the billboard application? How about that one?
So that was another one. It took, I mean, I got like the municipal lien certificate and the abutters list, like 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later.
See, that's what, and Steve, that's what I'm trying to say. We can't be held accountable for the fact that these people aren't, and this is just a simple special permit. This is not a comprehensive permit. This is not 40B. This is just a billboard bullshit. All right. This should have been something very, very simple. But it still took a total of what, 3 weeks to get that whole application together?
Maybe a little bit longer, but yeah.
See?
Yeah.
And this is, we shouldn't be telling them this. This is why they hire professionals. You talk to Mr. Tanzi, talk to myself, you talk to Tim. We've done this. We've done this ourselves. We've put together permit application sets and had to make sure that we had everything in there. And the stuff that we couldn't get, we had to get our applicant's attorney involved to be able to get all that stuff together. All right. In other areas, we've had to supply this information to the attorney's office who's putting this all together. So we know what it's like to have to deal with applications like this. This is why I look at this and I'm like, this is not that difficult. You know, the comp permit, yes, don't get me wrong. But when I look at this one, just for a simple variance, section 6 finding or special permit, I don't see where the disconnect is. But either way, it still comes down to, this is almost a question that I'm going to have to raise myself between Doug and Jen and say, hey guys, we got a problem here.
Gonna have to butt heads.
I'm gonna have to do it soon.
It's going to happen. And
Because I'm gonna have to call Attorney Galvin tomorrow then and figure out how to unscrew this up, right?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
I don't know what else I wish I knew what else to tell you.
Would we be able to, like, say it's an incomplete application? You find out in the nick of time, just schedule it for the next open meeting and then
Continue it.
Oh, yeah,
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 and that's the going forward, that would be a way to do it. Yeah, going forward, that would be a way to do it. Just accept the information as it stands, just have it come in. I think Steve looks like he froze.
He's frozen.
Why is
Schedule
it
it-
these
schedule
things
it for
always
30 days.
these things always get you at the worst possible moment?
Yeah. Like,
Schedule it in the 30 day, within the 30 days. And table it for, more information.
Yeah, I mean, I think going forward, we're gonna have to just accept, I would say just accept the application as it is. You go through it, highlight what's missing.
And deny it for lack of information.
It could very well happen. There's my man.
welcome back.
He's muted still. You're muted.
Steve is mute.
yeah, I talk too much and I froze myself out. The internet didn't like me talking that much.
Greg is falling asleep up there. He's usually Mr. Wordy, and he hasn't said a word in like easily 10 minutes.
Okay. So I have no idea where I left off, what anyone heard, and what they said in response to me.
No, but what you said was kind of right. Just take it in, stamp it in, schedule the hearing, do everything that you got to do, and then make, in that interim time, make a list of what needs to be
Hi.
basically received.
Yeah.
And then by the time the meeting comes, if you haven't received everything, then you tell the client, or you tell the applicant, look, we're still waiting for this, and this, and this. Start your thing. Let's talk about it, this, that, the other thing. And hopefully over the course of 5 meetings.
It shouldn't be up to us before once they file it, to go through it and then call them and say, hey, you forgot this stuff. We need it for the meeting.
Well,
We should wait
here's
for the
my
meeting and then
problem.
tell them.
Bob, I hear you. Here's my problem. That's how it's been done because that's how Candy did it.
Right.
I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. I'm not. But Candy was the secretary for the zoning board for what, Gregor? Tell it, how long do you remember Candy being the zoning board for? The
Oh,
zoning board secretary.
she was, a long time.
Before you- before you?
Oh, yeah, and I think
bet
in
you
the
30 over 30
1990s.
years.
Yeah.
All right, so that's how it's been done. And I don't remember when 40B came into play, but all I can say is that that's how it's been done forever. That's how it's been done.
Besides, how often do we want to have continuances and have 6:30 meetings for a couple of years? Because every other meeting, we have to tell them they need another document that we didn't catch they could have given us 9 months ago.
This is the problem.
So
This is the
we're paying
problem.
ourselves time.
This is, it's unfortunate, but this is the problem.
So
Right.
if they don't, just say like they happen to skip like the abutters list, which the sign guy did, I
Okay,
can't do the mailing for the legal notice.
right,
So I can't comply with that requirement.
right.
So I can't even schedule a hearing.
So basically what I want to do is I'm looking at this application, and again, this is just strictly the application for a special permit, you know, not.
Right,
that's
yeah,
not
the
even-
variance one, yeah.
Here's the one for the comp permit. The comp permit I went through and I felt like it was all good. But here's the application, public hearing decision, board shall hold a do. The completion of the board's review of project, any access amount, no, the funds received by the board pursuant to no, and hiring no, and reviewing no. Within 7 days of filing of the application, this is a comprehensive permit. No, that's not even where, filing time limits and notice. Application for the, preliminary site development plan showing. See, this is very, 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 very specific. A report on site condition, tabulation, the subdivision, preliminary site plan, utility plans, preliminary utility plans showing proposed location of this. Okay, fine. Documents, okay. Village jurisdiction applicant shall be a public agency, list of the application shall be accompanied by a filing fee. Within 7 days of filing the application, the board shall notify each. See, this is where, okay. It doesn't even talk about completed applications, but I thought somewhere in here you had to look back at the norm, you had to look at the normal application. I thought the two were supposed to go like hand in hand. Does any of that?
Yeah, because it's a comprehensive. Oh, you're saying both applications?
Yeah, I feel like both applications, when it came to the, I thought someone told me this, that the two applications,
So
you start with the requirements on, a normal special permit variance or
right.
you
Zoning
start with
application,
those.
right.
And then on top of all that, then you got to look at the comprehensive permit.
Okay.
I thought that's where it came from because
So
right
that
now
could be-
it doesn't even, it's the comprehensive rules, established procedures, zoning board appeals competent under the term they're required by the purpose of the act is to facilitate these, all right here. These rules alone are not sufficient to describe comprehensive permit procedures before the zoning board of appeals. They must be read in conjunction with and implemented in a manner consistent with the complete regulations of the Housing Appeals Committee and with the guidelines for local review of comprehensive permits published periodically by that. In addition, the board's general rules for conduct of hearings under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, apply to comprehensive permit applications. It says it right there.
Okay.
So if anybody who's filling out a comp permit reads, they're gonna
Well, that's-
see it right there.
But
All right,
that's
they're
the
gonna see it
problem.
right there, that they also have to look at the application for a normal variance, special permit, blah, blah, blah. So it's right there in front. See, again, I read these and I understand it all because I've had to do this before. So I don't understand where the general issues are, but anybody that's filling out a comp permit has to fulfill both sides. They have to fulfill both regulations. So maybe that's where 40B applicants are having issues. Does that make sense?
Well, I don't think it's so much the 40B ones are having issues.
Okay.
Aside from like us having the issue of when the packet's complete and filed.
Well, the definition of a complete package.
So I was gonna add on the end of the the zoning application instructions.
Okay,
Upon completion, please make an appointment with the regulatory coordinator, which is me, for review prior to submission to the town clerk for filing.
what letter would you make that?
I would put that right at the bottom, right above where it says all incomplete applications will be rejected and returned to the applicant. So I would put it after L, make it a separate paragraph.
Make it a separate paragraph, but make that K and then renumber everything else.
Okay. Okay.
It's more important that file your completed application because you don't even
Right.
know if you have a completed application until they talk to the smart person, which is you.
Okay.
Why don't we say before filing with the town clerk
Right.
to get, to have.
Prior to submission.
First,
Yeah.
So
And then
I
get
would
it.
say, right up to make 13 copies, everything's cool. Then put it in, make an appointment with the regulatory coordinator, just like you said.
Okay.
Make that K and then make KL, make LM. And
Okay.
where it says all incomplete
So
applications.
prior to file the application with the town clerk to be dated.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then in big highlighted letters, make it even bigger than what it says there. All
Okay.
incomplete applications will be rejected. Make sure that's all in huge letters.
Okay.
Mr. Galley, I see your hand. What's going on, sir?
Just really
we gotta
quick,
be careful with that, because if Deb says it's okay to file, and then we find.
It's okay to file.
She's gonna say, they're gonna come back at us and say,
No, because that's the board's
if we
determination.
reject it though, at the meeting because it's,
You wouldn't though, you'd
incomplete.
continue it. If something was missing, if you want more information at that first hearing, it would be continued.
Yeah.
That's a board call. Right? Does that make
Absolutely.
sense?
Yeah.
Like if the plan doesn't have like, I don't know, like say the sidelines or something that I miss, which I usually forward the plans to Rob anyway for review, just,
Mhm.
or like if I have questions on something to be clarified.
should,
If
yeah,
if it's missing if it's missing specific information that comes up that we want answers to, different story. We're talking about missing a butters list. We're talking about that lien certificate. We're talking about
landscape plan.
yeah, if there's a
Right.
landscape plan missing or something like that. You know, if there's additional information that's required, different story. That's a continuance. We go on to the next meeting. But if it says, again, all incomplete applications, that's the basic information coming from the list. So literally, if there was a checklist and you checked everything off there, but for some reason something got missed, you know,
Should
then
we
that's
give-
why-
Should we give Deb a little time? Like, they file it on Monday, you know, they can't expect an answer by Monday afternoon. You know,
Well, that's what the appointment was for.
That's
Well,
the-
yeah,
that's-
or I tell them like they can email it to me,
Yeah,
you know, whatever's more convenient for them. I try to meet with them like as soon as,
Hey, you're better,
Yeah,
I'll be
right.
honest with you, you're better off making the meeting with them. Because if they email it to you, then unfortunately that gets put off. You know it does. You know what happens with emails.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah,
happens to you all the
yeah.
time. You know, you see it come in, okay, I'll deal with that later. I'll deal with that later.
yeah, right, yeah,
And then
yeah,
3 days later, I call you.
yeah.
All right, you know what I'm talking about. So you're better off making the appointment and sitting down and
Okay.
talking to them.
Okay,
Past
So we
that
should-
appointment.
So we
Okay.
should put on that, must meet with the coordinator.
okay,
It's not,
fine.
it's not even must, it's shall. That's if you look in it, it's honestly, Bob, I'm telling you right now, if you look in if you look at anything else, when it comes to what you're requiring the person to do, it's shall. Applicant shall make a meeting. Mr. Galley, talk to
Yeah,
me.
really quick rewind. You mentioned the copies. When we were talking for 320 Concord, the applicant was saying about, can we make less copies? And you were open to that. And I don't remember if it would apply to this initial 13 copies or if it would be for additional documents in the future. But that was a topic that we didn't quite resolve, I don't think.
No, you're right. When it comes to the normal, the normal application, variances, special permits, section 6 findings, it's 13 sets.
Okay.
I'm not changing that.
Yeah.
I'm not changing that. When it comes to not that.
40 Bs.
I'm trying to find it.
I
Here.
think it's 28 sets.
It says 28 sets, but it also talks about reduced size copies. Trying to get there.
Big plans and then smaller.
Yeah,
I think, did it say maybe 11 sets of 11 by 17?
it sounds familiar. I'm just trying to find it. To do tabulation, preliminary documents, to do list of exceptions, to do. Here it is. The applicant shall provide the town clerk with 28 copies of the complete application. So the following boards, blah, blah, blah. Board of the town council. And one unbound copy for copying purposes. Which you really don't need because we've got the digital. All right, we'll have the digital. So you can make copies off the digital. That's not really a big deal.
Should
So
you get the one unbound copy or electric copy?
no, no, I'm going to say, I would say personally, I would delete one unbound copy for copying purposes. No, I would delete and one unbound copy.
Yeah.
And I would put in place and one full digital copy for copying and digital dispersal purposes, something like that. So who cares about the unbound copy? I don't think anybody cares about that. Then it goes into additionally 11 by 17 copies of all plans with match lines shall be made available to the town clerk for copying purposes. So that's telling me one set of the completed set to scale in 11 by 17. Which that's a difficult situation because that's a whole different plan set. Rega, you hear what I'm saying? The way that I read this is 28 full size copies and at least one 11 by 17, 11 and additionally one 11 by 17 copy of all plans with match lines. That kind of infers these things need to be to scale. Kind of.
Well, yeah, they'd have to be to scale. I mean, otherwise, a match line
Means
doesn't do any
nothing.
good. Yeah,
Right. So
You know,
it's
a match line would be random,
It
or
would-
arbitrary if it's not to scale.
and it would be, if you put it this way, you could take a 24 by 36 and scale that down to fit an 11 by 17 and it would still be to scale. It
Mhm.
wouldn't be it wouldn't be exactly half the scale of whatever the 24 by 36 is, because
Right, but you'd have proportionality.
you'd have proportionality. So you, instead of saying the additionally 11 by 17 copies of all plans with match lines, you can say additionally 1 11 by 17 plan, one additionally, comma, 1 11 by 17 plan set, reduced size plan set shall be made available to the town clerk for copying purposes.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
At least get that out, get that fucking bullshit of match lines out of there, because that to me says that they want it scaled. They want it scaled, and they want you to be able to scale off of it. And anything big like a shingle mill, that would require 26 pages, which may to just get the site on there to make it work, and that's just not going to happen. But again, they're asking for 28 for the initial submission. They're asking for 28 copies plus the digital plus 1 11 by 17.
Is
The request came in when it comes to revisions. This is where his request came in. The problem is that those revisions still would have to go technically to the planning board, the board of health, the building inspector, conservation commission, the board of water commissioners, board of sewer commissioners, highway superintendent, fire department, police department, board of selectmen, town administrator, and town council.
Why can't they get an electronic copy? Because it's uploaded to the website. And then if they want a paper copy, fine, we can get it. Nobody wants the paper. Dave Taylor wants the paper.
Dave Taylor is the only one.
Pretty much. Planning says, all right, I could see. Now, Jen says, why even notify planning?
Why?
Yeah, I'm like, because they have to know. I don't know why.
Good form? Because it's good
Yeah.
form, and it's good because
For the
it's good
comprehensive
form.
permit.
No. See, with a comprehensive permit, that's what we're looking at right now. With a
Right.
comprehensive permit, we are the planning board. But the sheer fact is that what I'm trying to accomplish here with all these fucking boards, oh, excuse me, we're still taping. I apologize. With all
And we're
these
live.
boards, I am trying to get to the point where we're all talking to one another. All right. Planning board, regardless of the situation, I like to keep them updated with what we're doing.
I agree.
All
Yeah.
right. I like to keep them updated. Planning board talks to me. You know, granted, it honestly, it's myself and it's John Lucas talking to each other, but we're keeping the boards together. We're trying to keep.
Right.
Conservation Commission doesn't want to talk to anybody.
Who?
All right. Conservation Commission.
Oh, I know. I've talked to him. I know.
Let's
very
just say
non-committal.
let's just say that it's not a very good communication there. But the sheer fact is that's why. For the sheer fact of I want to make sure that I'm satisfying what I think is the right thing to do and keep everybody talking. All right, that's what I'm trying to do. So yes, planning board, board of health, building inspector, conservation, board of health, board of water commissioners, board of sewer commissioners, highway department, highway superintendent, sewer fire department, police department, board of selectmen, town administrator, and town council. Now,
Town engineer
no,
on a 40B.
technically that's Pat
Can I-
Reddick. He would.
can I
So
interrupt?
Pat always gets a copy of a 40B application.
Yeah,
whether-
Can I interrupt
Please.
as the senior member, and I mean that in terms of my age?
Well, I think I am, but that's okay.
Not-
I got you. Go ahead.
I don't know. So this, not that, I think this is a very, very important topic, but since it is not, we don't have a time frame like we do the actual bylaws and anything.
Right.
With the bylaws. I'd like to make the suggestion that we continue this conversation to a time that's before 10 o'clock.
No, that's fine. What about, and I'm gonna jump all over that. I'm gonna leave this when it comes to the copies. Deb, do me a favor. Put together an email to the department head for each one of those departments and say, look, we're having issues with the number of paper copies. People are complaining. It doesn't seem like people want them. Can you, when it comes to a comprehensive permit, can you please respond to this email, and tell me if the department requires a paper copy?
I already did.
And did you get everybody back? Did
Not
everybody
yet,
get
no,
back?
no.
All right. Who's
So,
not getting?
I told them, just let me know and I'll put the paper copy in their box.
Okay, that's fine. Well, here's the thing. You're telling me some people have gotten back to you? Yes?
No,
Nobody's gotten
I
back.
just sent it out. No, nobody has.
Oh, okay, well,
So that's why I'm saying, why can't I just, as soon as I get a filing, send it out to whoever, saying, here's the filing on the website, here's the link, here's a copy of it, whatever, electronically. If you want paper, let me know.
Yeah, but let's say you say that you and I need to talk about this because we
Okay.
can't just do that.
Okay.
I'd love to be able to do that, but we can't do that.
Okay,
So
all right,
we'll
so call me
just talk
tomorrow.
about that.
right.
All right. So we're still within this fight. This is still the public meeting, isn't it?
Yes.
So
Technically. All right.
for the sake of our audience,
What'd you say?
for the sake of our audience,
Dude,
my beauty role.
guys, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. I know, Mr. Tanzi, you look like you're about to fall asleep. So I would entertain a
Well,
motion.
One quick thing. I was
Yes.
watching the selectmen's meeting and they're talking about getting a town planner.
Good.
That might help Deb with the filings and stuff that we
Not
got.
really, because the town planner typically does nothing. The town planner is typically a figurehead. Oh, look at Greg. He knows what I'm talking about. Typically, the town planner is a figurehead and does absolutely nothing.
In
All right?
many towns, though, you have to have an intake meeting with the town planner before they'll accept, like, its signature has to be on
Well,
that document before the.
When they put out the thing
So
to
that could
hire
be a great
someone,
thing.
when they put out the request for proposals for a town planner,
Mhm.
we should get involved with with the selectmen to tell them what we think a town planner job is.
Well,
and
then
what they have to help with.
what I'm gonna try to do, and maybe tomorrow. I know he's busy, but if I can get together with Mike Corbett, then that's two boards together to help with this. I would love it if we could get basically, because there's 4 design boards in this town: Planning Board, Zoning Board, Conservation Commission, Board of Health. If the 4 boards can get all together, then things will run a hell of a lot smoother when it comes to construction, when it comes to development, when it comes to how people utilize the property that they have currently and not screw with somebody else's property. That's how it's just if we all come together, if all the boards come together and just work together, not everybody be on their high horses and stuff like that. If they all come together and everything's cool, then this will work way way better. Thank you, Mr. Baker, for bringing that up, because I didn't know that. I don't think any of us knew that. But the fact is, instead of spending the money on a town planner, they should be spending the money on getting Deb more hours to be able to do her job. Because I'm sorry, 3 hours a day is not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it. Things are going to get missed. Electronic filings are not going to get found. And we're going to be in the situation, we're going to continue to be in the situation that we're in.
Did you submit your budget for next year?
That's a Deb.
Say what? I
Have
don't,
you submitted your budget for next year for the zoning board?
I don't do numbers. I just went with what was there.
You gotta. This is why I gave you the budget information.
but the
Yeah.
budget will stay the same.
Well,
Unless we want more.
Actually, I'll talk to you tomorrow about that because I met with Serena today,
Sure.
Jen and I, to
Yep.
go over kind of all of that.
Good.
So I think that whole area is kind of like in flux up there,
double
course
it,
it is.
double it,
but
double
Yeah.
the amount.
Who's the town accountant right now? What's her name?
I don't think we have one.
No, she's still here until Friday.
Oh, Biz?
Yeah, Biz.
Oh,
You don't like her? She seemed nice to me. I don't know. I'm not saying
Streaming
nothing.
live, people. It's coming live.
Exactly. That's right. That's my point. She's it's either way. Unfortunately, I met her. She seemed really nice. Unfortunately, she's leaving. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
So regardless, you and I will talk tomorrow. We'll figure out what the next thing is. I would entertain a motion to.
motion or adjourn.
Got a motion to
Second.
adjourn. I got a second right there. Mr. Tanzi,
Yes.
go to bed. Myself is a yes. Mr. Haynes,
Yes.
go lie down on the couch. Mr. Baker,
Yes.
go pass out in your
Bob,
comfy
One
chair.
quick thing,
Well, no, quick thing.
Please.
What?
been on my mind all day.
Oh, Jesus.
I need you guys to take a ride over to the backside of the Holy Family Church. That's all I'll say for next week.
For next week. Okay, we'll deal with that. I'm gonna start from scratch. Mr. Tanzi,
Yes.
I guess myself
Yes.
is yes. Mr. Haynes,
Yes.
Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Gally,
Yes.
Deb.
Good night, guys.